The whole football stadium is packed, sold out. Woo! It's coming your way.
Teddy, we've actually known each other for like nearly 20 years. You may not even remember, but you used to call me when you were even involved with Mat Rads.
Yeah.
I was that guy that was building the rings,
Yeah.
and delivered the rings. So, we've never actually done business together before today.
I was trying to get a hold of you at Dallas to let you know that I wanted to be on your next show. It was the best wrestling show I'd ever seen done.
Yeah, I've met you a couple of times like on the show, but we never sat down. You scare me. That's what it is. You scare me. And, a lot of wrestlers. We were talking about this off camera. Like I'm very business oriented, and a lot of wrestlers like yourself very creative. And we come from different parts of life.
Yeah.
So I don't end up socializing with a lot of guys, and some guys like you just scare me, honestly. You do. But I'm glad.
You're one of the guys I wanted to prove to that I hadn't got to work with in years, that there is mostly just smoke. The Teddy Hart is a guy you'd probably love or do good business with, who's a businessman. But just once you get to know me, then you'll tell me what you want me to do, and because I respect you, I'll listen to you. If not, then it's the same old shit as will Teddy Hart listen? And chances are probably not, because it's not listening to you that makes me get hits on YouTube or be controversial. It's the fact that I'm not listening to you because you're full of shit. You're not. You run the greatest wrestling show I've ever seen for a reason, because you watch wrestling. You love wrestling, you studied it, you spent an exorbitant amount of money and went through huge headaches to make sure WrestleMania weekend wasn't me watching John Cena and some other guy and another guy and another guy shit the bed in front of 130,000 people. But everyone said it's a good time, because how can you justify wasting $4,000 to go to WrestleMania and walk away saying that sucked? I know 1,000 people that I talk to that watch WrestleMania, and I'm sorry Vince and those guys, but they thought it was the shits because they'd watched Mike's show first. And if they hadn't watched your show, they would have probably thought WrestleMania was awesome. But if you get fucking steak and lobster in 30 seconds in a new wave oven, and it's got no microwave, nothing, and it's just the same as I would have had it in an oven that would have taken an hour and a half, and I'm paying $5 for it instead of 50, I'll prefer the steak and lobster that's delivered, express delivery. And that's what I looked at your show as.
And we all thank Vince, because obviously we would never have the crowds that we do without.
He's the man, dude.
everybody
I always
there.
say The Rock, Stone Cold, Vince, those type of guys for originally what they did on how they brought the drones of people in to watch wrestling and keep wrestling alive. So again, my complaint is to Vince only of maybe the guys that Mike got to use are guys you had before. And due to Vince having such a wide variety of what he likes, he's let guys that we think are valuable go. Because you got Ray, you got Matt Hardy, you got Jeff Hardy, you had like a whole bunch of just, the show better than I do, but you had so many guys that were on the show that I thought if WWE wasn't using them, they should be using them, and the rest they've already used and have already done their thing with them, right? So,
But in their credit, if you look at my roster or anybody else's, the stronger independents, he takes from there quite a bit. And a lot of the guys that they cast them off at that time for a reason usually. Jeff's had his noted struggles.
Of course.
Ray's had nine injuries. He probably looked at him as like, put the dead horse to pasture. But
he looks like he's in better shape now with his newfound love for wrestling. Instead of being on that schedule with WWE, he looks like he's in Ray we're speaking about. Looks like a new man.
So I appreciate the you've said nice words about the WrestleCon show before, but I think Vince knows what he's doing. We're actually, just to put a timestamp on what we're doing now, tonight is the beginning of his cruiserweight tournament. And I think a lot of people are interested because it's so outside of the box of what Vince has done for 20 years. He's letting people who aren't even under contract basically make specials for him and his network now.
I thought it was Triple H and a couple of the guys in there that whoever talked to the way things work and changed the way things work, and now things are working in favor of the fans. I've said this time and time again, I think the fans in wrestling get treated the worst. They get the least amount of actual respect for what they do, and they don't have a sport that they can really get behind except for one WrestleMania weekend, which to me is fine. But it's there's so many other things that go on with wrestling. So I've been watching the last like 5 WrestleManias carefully, and to me it's the shows that go on around WrestleMania that make WrestleMania so good to me. I'm not a I like what WWE is, and the lure, the lights, the cameras, all that, the work that goes into that project is insane. But you ran a show with relatively no lights, no special effects, no crazy shit, just a wrestling show. And no sound effects. Like Lucha Underground's got great sound effects. There's no sound effects on your show. I watched those matches, and I'm a critic. I walked in thinking I'm gonna go fuck. Mike's an asshole. He didn't even book me for the show. He booked a bunch of fucking retards for the show. Sorry, Colt Cabana, for the retard word, but I can't take it out of my vocabulary just like this. So it may just float around a little bit through these interviews. My sorry, but I was going into back to complain, like, hey, how did you manage to waste all this money on all these different wrestlers and you couldn't find me in Dallas who's free? But I watched it, and I was like, fuck, dude, I watched it and I couldn't say anything. And then I walked to the back and I saw Mike, and I gave Mike the old test I give everybody, like, hey, Mike, you got like 0.2 seconds to say hi to the youngest guy in the world to ever sign a contract, and the only guy that's still a multimillionaire without ever being a wrestler. And no one knows if I got shit, or if I'm a bum, or if I'm crazy, or if I'm not, or if I'm a cop, or if I'm a fucking joke, whatever.
Sometimes it's not or, it's
Exactly, right? And it's more of my thing is, if a guy treats me right off the hop with the same thing I give him, which is a chance, and you did. You looked at me like a normal guy and went, hey, Ted, nice to meet you. I talked to you about the ring from Stacy with Derek Starlight, because I was trying to get my new ring from the Indian guy. He fucked me. Which always makes me sound full of shit. So I had a little hesitation of talking to you like I was the man, because usually I buy 2 or 3 rings, it's cash talks. Then you're more receptive to hear my story of wanting to build this trampoline ring or skateboard ring or whatever.
I'm ready to build it.
It's going to be awesome. I had this concept for the ring, but point was, Mike was nice to me, gave me the talk, and you were so busy with your show. You still gave me 5 minutes, and I hackled you about getting that poster. And you said, come back at the end of the night, and I'll give it to you, which usually means fucking fuck off, and I forgot later on, which is most guys. I don't know you, and I've heard you're a businessman that doesn't bullshit. You're actually a good guy. I've heard that from lots of guys. So I'm like, cool, I'll go back to the end, and there you were. You gave me that post with every single autograph on it. And I had to say, in my life, I've watched wrestling more than anybody except for maybe Shane McMahon. In the history of wrestling, I've watched more wrestling than The Rock or Cena or Shawn Michaels or Triple H. I've watched more wrestling than almost anyone in the world. And that was the best, by far, wrestling show I've ever seen in my life. And I thought it put such a nice shine on WrestleMania. And it was so cool that Vince has allowed this WrestleMania to be an indie wrestling show for all these other days. And then WrestleMania happens. But nobody's talking about WrestleMania until WrestleMania. Everybody's talking about the Ring of Honor show, or your show, or what's about to happen, or all the autographs they got to sign at the WrestleCon with all those guys down there. Instead of seeing those guys all fucked up, someone gives them some money, a hotel, helps them out. You give these guys purpose. To me, you're making wrestling for which, if I was a wrestler, I'd be an old, beaten down, broke wrestler, because that's basically what I'm allowed to be. There's not a lot of money in sponsors. There's no money for fucking, retirement or those. So you create an importance for once a year at least. I get to go. I can see 90 wrestlers downstairs that Vince wasn't going to use at his thing, that are either his ex-guys or guys that I thought were important into the fabric of what made wrestling cool as a kid, and I want to get their autograph. I don't sign autographs, so I'm a mark. I'm running around getting pictures and autographs, and I love it. And then they look at me, they go, why aren't you selling any merch? And I go, you know what, maybe I'll sell merch this time for the first time next year. So in Orlando, I'm going to sell merch. I got Mr. Money shirts and hats and stuff.
Mr. Money needs an agent.
Yeah, he needs an agent. He does. I think, honestly, Mr. Money really does. Like, he should be doing more movie stuff. He should be doing more stuff on commercials. His intelligence and his acceptance of dealing with people and trying to mark his territory. Yeah, I think he made us get a little squirt there on you, close to you. I think he likes you. You spent a little time with him there. But he should be, I think he should be recognized as the very first cat to ever come in wrestling and make it into something. Because there's never been a cat in wrestling. There's been a dog, there's been a snake, there's been a bird, there's been a tiger, a bear, all that kind of stuff. But in order to train an actual house cat to sit even for the entrance is pretty crazy. That was like my thing, was if he can sit through the entrance on the top turnbuckles, I don't need him to do the backflip, because I throw him in the air, someone says animal cruelty. I blow smoke in his face to show that he likes to smoke weed with me. That's fucking getting a cat high, takes him away from me. So all the things I thought, like, I'll get the cat through a triple backflip after smoking weed with him, fucking not a good idea. Not a good idea. It sounds good at first, and then you're thinking, and then you run it through 4 people that are all smart guys like you, and they go, Ted, what are you thinking? You're throwing the cat 20 feet in the air. What if you miss him? And
The
you
guy's
land?
taking the phone calls
Yeah,
and
fuck,
defending the
exactly.
lawsuits,
So
right?
I have guys that are like my defenders of my dumb ideas, and they bring me back down to reality base, which is like the cat in a cape with an outfit, maybe a little hat or glasses on, sits on the top turnbuckle. That's about the extent of what you're going to get a cat to do.
See, you don't understand. People like me,
Yeah.
like we're jealous of people like you because the ideas keep coming, and and I'm always thinking about how do I monetize the one idea that I get, and your ideas come so quickly.
But I need a guy like you that can set up the actual back end of stuff. Where I have this jewelry company, I have these watches I get made in China, and people want to buy stuff off me all the time. I always feel bad telling them that it wasn't worth a lot. I got the watch for $60. They're like, it's a $40,000 watch. I said, maybe it could have been. I said, I don't even know. I said, I got it made. It looked like a Rolex. I said, my friend's a replica guy. He makes replica watches. They wanted to get them made in China instead of making them in Europe because they were costing too much money to counterfeit all these different watches. They're making counterfeit watches that look really, really good. He said, why don't we send them to China and see what it costs to get the machines there? This watch would have cost me about maybe $6,000 in a store. I got it for $60. I got my bracelet for $60, $50 now. So he makes everything for me for so cheap that I always tell people, I'm like, I would make more money selling a chain at the show or kittens at the show than I would selling shirts. So if I brought 10 kittens to the show and I said it's $400 a kitten, I've seen guys buy Wagner's mask for $400 at a show, or buy Rey Mysterio Jr.'s fucking jacket, a real actual jacket, because sometimes the guys sell weird stuff when they're at shows, right? So I sort of sell the cat, and I'll sell his whatever, if it's his hyperallergenic genetics. So I go to a cat show at the same time as a wrestling show and try to get the ladies to verify that this cat was something special compared to all their other cats that are show cats that are tournament winners or the top in class or whatever. And they always said he was smarter, and they always said he was nicer, and there was always there's something about that specific cat that just made people like me. And I went from being a guy that kind of liked being hated and like being arrogant and avoiding questions and kind of being standoffish, where people are actually really nice if they like animals. And everyone's been so nice. It made me like people again. It made me start to like myself because I started having a certain attitude of like, make myself into this kind of a character where people are going to avoid me because I'm already blackballed and they're going to read something out of it. He's so crazy, this guy. What are you doing? Are you making a mess for me?
Good.
I'm sorry, I got this thing on here. Since you did this, you're gonna get. And it's just a pain in the ass. I never could do any kind of contortion stuff. Jack was always so good. He's so flexible. So we started doing this thing when we were younger with our cats called positions, where we just hold them, right? So this way. Sorry, let go. And you have to hold them in a position for 5 seconds. So this is one position. This would be one. There's another one like this. If you hold him in a phantom chair, so you hold him like this, you'll have to hold on to his legs. He'll do this one for 10 seconds, and then if you want to do upside down, you got to tell him, you're going to go upside down for me?
Yeah, when he wants to say no, what is he? Is that a no?
Well, it might be a no, but I got his tail. So that if I let go of his tail, he's usually pretty good. Let go, it's okay. See, the thing is, he already ate, so now he's upset because he already ate. So if I can get him to do one more backflip. There you go. Let me see if I can get you to do a twist. This one's the hardest one to do. There you go. There you go. Good boy.
Great, thanks, Terry. We're gonna have Peter writing us next week.
Yeah, Peter's all over me. So then you can see he's fairly happy after. And then this is my favorite position for him is the couch. You're not doing a very good couch right now. So then I could walk around holding him like this in my arms without having to have my hands tied up, and I could still interact with people. So people didn't think this was going to be possible. This took a year to get him to sit like this. Every day I'd have to hold him and give him a treat, and he'd move and move and move. After like 6 months, he started staying like this. And this is the hardest trick I ever had to do, is hold yourself like a ball, because cats always kick out. So when I throw him up in the air, he won't kick out. You stay. Because they always want to flip out, so. And then started trying to do spins with them that way. You're being quite a spoiled baby right now.
about a year ago, we met you in, actually it was in Orlando, I think.
Yeah.
It was Orlando. And you did an interview with our favorite two guys, Chuck and Trent, and you got to be part of their bizarre show. A year ago, you were in the middle of a lawsuit and you couldn't really talk.
Yeah.
All that stuff's been cleared up now.
I beat it all. Thank God. I beat it all. And I said that to everybody too. Just bear with me. I know this has been up and down watching my career and imagining how much money I've lost and bridges I burned, and most of it well aware and happy to have had my career go the way it went. I was wanting to make it around 35 years old and go on do my stuff then because I'd lived my life. I watched Brett and I had way more life experience than Brett did because I got to live my life as a nobody or as an average person or as a guy that was related to Brett or watched Teddy Hart and then got to go live underneath as somebody else. I don't ever have to be Teddy Hart. I get to go back to my city where no one even knows I wrestle. Mm-hmm. No one watches Jersey All Pro or Ring of Honor in Calgary. Wrestling's dead in Calgary.
Right.
So to me, they know me as a pot guy or a guy that's friends with a lot of cops or knows tons of hot chicks and owns a gym. So that's my. So when I tell people I'm in New York wrestling, they're like, yeah, they kind of nod their head and they have no idea that I'm doing the biggest wrestling show New York indie wrestling has out there in Canada and the United States. There's no other shows bigger than usually the PWS show or like Jersey All Pro is pretty big for indie shows for actual like live audience. So it was, I don't know how to explain. It was just like all those years of working up to get to be a certain character, and then that character I'm told is now a rapist. He's worthless. All that work he did to be controversial and to be hated was all for the spin of the comeback of was I that bad and what did I really do? I did a couple backflips.
Why did you move to the U.S. while it's
because it was supposed to start doing anti-bullying seminars for elementary schools and junior highs with Byron Wilcott. He runs Main Event Wrestling. Mm-hmm. All elementary schools, junior highs, they go do these big promotions where they come in on Thursday, Friday. They promote the anti-bullying campaign. They sell tickets to the show for Saturday. And he's drawing 14, 15, 1,600 people where no one's drawing 150 in Texas. He's killing him. I said, what's your secret? He says, I copied what you were doing years ago. I went to the schools, I went to the teachers, I went to the principals, I went to the cops, all those types of people that have permission. They're the ones that control the way things work on what we need to do to get a kids wrestling school or a kids wrestling show. And can we promote it through anti-bullying? And can we promote it through basically we're going to come to your school on a Friday or a Thursday and then you guys got the show on Saturday. Kids forget quick. If you can get them on a Friday to go Saturday, it's a one-day gap. You could probably get most of them to come. So he started doing that and he called me up. He goes, you had me at your house in Calgary and for I think like 2 months or 3 months straight. He goes, I'd like to come down here. I'll return the favor and come work with me on developing a wrestling school and a system for all of Texas and Louisiana. And I went down there and then the charges hit after the first week and he said, we can't have you in the schools. I'm getting calls from parents all the time now saying, what the fuck, you got a sexual offender or a potential piece of shit on your shows. I don't want to work with them. And it killed all my bookings. My whole point was to be this is my first year, like last year, was really being in a place where wrestling promoters could use me for a cheap ticket. Was supposed to be accessible to all the guys that said, listen, if you weren't an $800 flight out of Calgary, we'd book you and we know you're there because it's not that far. But with customs, immigration, with your criminal record, with all that stuff, it's not worth a promoter like you or any of these other guys to spend $1,000 when you could get literally 5 matches out of $1,000 if you're using indie guys, right? For how much the difference of prices are. Mm-hmm. So it cost me credibility again, and it was like I worked all those years to not be reliable. People think it was like, my own stupidity. I said also created a master plan of that when I did show up, it meant something. You couldn't count on me, but you could count on me if you're, if you knew what to do or who. If I liked you, you could count on me. If you didn't, then it was like whatever. Not that I made a lot of stories or excuses. Shit just happened, but it seemed to happen a lot more than to me than it did to other guys. So that made my luck bad and made me unreliable for a lot of the guys that I wanted to get to.
But I think what it was is Teddy doesn't need wrestling because Teddy finds other ways to make money.
Always.
Teddy can do a lot of different ways to make $300 in a day.
Of course. Yeah, I was.
Whereas a lot of other guys, a lot of the names that we talk about in these wrestling interviews, I mean, that's all they do.
I didn't know how much work it took to be a wrestler on their end until I started watching a lot of these guys, and then I saw and I started feeling bad that I was potentially taking opportunity that they would have looked at as as fucking unbelievable opportunity, and I was flushing it down the toilet for laziness or just lack of not caring about making some pictures. But I wasn't one of them. I had nothing in common with them. So I started traveling and I started driving and I started being a wrestler instead of just showing up at shows and athletically doing shit that I could do, but never paying my dues as one of the boys and hanging out in the hotels and doing the drives and playing the video games and doing Twitter and Facebook and becoming one of the boys. I didn't want to be one of the boys. I'd rather be your boss. You buy drugs off me, and I'll get you on tape later in case you talk tough. Instead of just send that to your wife and shut the fuck up. I don't got to hear your mouth anymore type of attitude. But you want to fit in after a while, and you want to make something out of 25 years of being a wrestler and have an answer of, was I that good? I could have had a great match with Ricochet. I could have wrestled Shawn Michaels if I didn't call him out, before that. Or should I have done it a different way? And to a point, you want to be controversial. Then after a while, it's like, okay, I got 5 years or 10 years left to make as much money in wrestling, not on the street. I'm already financially wealthy, independently wealthy on the street. Plus, my dad is a wealthy guy. He's always had family money for 5 generations. So, but I still climbed to the top ropes, and I still tried to do something that no one else did that came from a wealthy or rich background. I don't know any other wrestling family or any other wrestler that had the money that I had put away based on all these different things, inheritance, my dad, gym, business, my first contract. Why would I do anything, and why do I do everything I do? It was only for the fans' love and respect, because I didn't know how else to bridge the gap of a guy that was born into a family with wrestling. Most of my athletic ability was God-given. I didn't go to gymnastics that much. I didn't go to the gym that much. Spent most of my time literally taking care of cats, training women on how to be better mothers in the future. So the world's got a bunch of hot girls that aren't so uptight and weird that if 2 guys did a threesome with 2 girls or a foursome, that would be the end of the world. In my eyes, it's like I just want to see women and men get along better. And wrestling went back to that, where I started opening up a school for girls. So I started trying to train girls to get more girls into wrestling and give me something to do on the road and someone to take care of the cat. And again, build things that people like, that I'm not that guy. So maybe you're not going to like me, but you like my valet. Maybe you don't like me, but you like the cat. Ways where you could at least come up to me and talk to me. I wanted fans to give me their input, and I wasn't getting any more input. The allure of Teddy Hart was starting to go down the tubes, the Ring of Honor, the controversy, all that stuff. It was gone. So what was the new thing? Was Teddy Hart brought a cat to the ring and was trying to be reliable, trying to show up and tell the truth. So if I said to you, hey man, I'm going to be there at 3, it's 5 minutes later. If I keep you waiting a half an hour, what the fuck would be the point of doing that? I just blew the only time I had with you as a first impression that I said I would do something and I was there. So I pride myself on that. If I'm controversial all these times, whenever I do it right, it's a fucking miracle. Mm-hmm. So that miracle fact that I'm now doing things right, it's a fucking miracle. People are taking note and giving me a chance to save my own ass, which is, thank God humans are more forgiving than
Why now?
Because I probably represent myself differently now. Much more a humble and forgiving character, because I didn't realize that a lot of the stuff I was saying, how it hurt people or how it came across. Colt Cabana pulled me aside and he's like, we're scared of you too. We don't know what you're going to do or what direction you're going to go in. Are you going to hurt us or are you a threat to us? Or is it just like a story being told but not actually going to happen right now? And I said, no, dude, most of the stuff is past, or it was something that could have happened, or I wanted revenge on something. I said, fuck, that's years ago. I said, all I want is a job and make money, and my friends make money.
But you could look back, it's like the mentality of like, hey, what do I have over that guy?
Yeah.
We were talking about some of the AAA mentality of
competition. I think the guys were no longer looking at me as competition. They made their money, and now I'm not a threat. And now they're starting to go, what's actually going to better wrestling? Could Teddy Hart be a guy that's going to better wrestling? And they go, you know what? If he does what he's supposed to do, which is what we can all guide him to do, because we all work together on making me do this, go in a certain direction. He might be savable, and we can make a lot of money off the fact that he wasn't bankable for 15 years. That's the mystique, that you couldn't find a way to get this guy with all that talent and all that fucking potential, the it factor. We couldn't get him in a ring and get him to do anything. But now he's this other guy. He's got a new cat. He's got a bunch of girls that take care of him. He's got money from special needs. Dude, imagine selling, growing pot all these years. Any money I bring in, I'm federally indicted on tax evasion. I was Conspiracy Act charges, Patriot Act charges. It's not fun, dude. I've been in jail for 7 months straight for a charge I never did the first time. 7 months straight, dude. I spent 5 months in rehab. I smoked pot. Never done hard drugs. I mean, like,
but looking back on things now, and I know you're still a pot guy, but do you think pot might have
killed my career? Absolutely.
Well, not just killed your career. But I'm just saying.
There's a time and place. I didn't use it right. I used it as a shield to get out of work. I knew if I had pot around me all the time, they wouldn't hire me. So I was a guy who didn't want to be hired but wanted to look like he was hired so I could bitch to the world of wrestling, like, look at me, I should have got a job. I was better than all the other guys. But secretly, I knew the guys like you that would go fucking, I absolutely agree on that. But Teddy Hart, 19 different days, he's late, never showed up, smelled like pot in front of 2 kids at his school, and I lost $1 billion sponsor. Transformers doesn't want to do the movie now.
But you're a smart guy. You knew that before. You didn't. This isn't something you learned today.
So I just thought until that day's ready where I want to work for somebody or I like what's going on in wrestling, it looks like Triple H actually cares, then my family's all been slaughtered and all the guys I liked have been sacrificed and told that they did too much and it wasn't enough when it counted. And I watched the wrestling style go back to being what I thought was what I talked about complaining about, archaic, the same old move. And then I watched your show. Literally, your show is what saved my wanting to blow up a fucking building with wrestling in it.
But my show's so different than what's out there.
No, it was you put Pro Wrestling Guerrilla in front of fucking 3,000 real people.
It wasn't but
whoever decided,
So you're familiar with Guerrilla.
You did it different.
Well, let's talk about Guerrilla for now.
Yeah.
Because this isn't about me. This is about you two.
Yeah.
Guerrilla. I mean, 20 years ago, Teddy Hart stood out because of the things that you could do in the ring that no one else could do.
And now the whole world's
doing it. Now the whole world either copied it or they're doing it better.
Oh yeah,
because the 18-year-old could do what the 36-year-old can't do now.
Evolution. As I thought, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla was the best wrestling without storyline and psychology that I've ever seen in my life. But it showed the matrix of what these guys athletically could do, and the commentating and the way they cut their clips, the video editing, phenomenal. I've been blowing smoke and validity of truth of how good Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is all over the world. And your show was the show where you took the Vince McMahon audience, which is entertained. They just want to be entertained. But let me show them what wrestling really is, and then let them watch what entertainment is. Wrestling is a full contact sport of life and death, of walking away with a broken neck or a broken arm or a broken leg, because it's that serious. What they're doing on TV is a different sport, and I respect it because they have a different schedule. But what you put in front of that show, even Lance Storm and Matt Hardy, who are both lazy bums, had to wrestle a match and pace because they knew the building was so serious. That building would have said, "Get the fuck out," or "We don't want you," or "You don't have it," if you didn't have it. And it made every single fucking guy watch the guys that did all the crazy shit and study, and they had to give those guys respect and try to copy that new style. And that's all I wanted, was wrestling to evolve. My family makes money with wrestling. Wrestling was dying. My grandfather's life, he loved wrestling, put everything he ever had into it, and when he was on top, wrestling was on top. It was really good. We made a lot of money. 30 years later, dude, I'm watching it, and I was going, this is shit. I can't even talk about it at a bar. I'm with 2 chicks. I tell them I'm a wrestler. I might as well told them I was a fucking cop. I got more pussy saying I was an undercover cop than I ever did as a fake pro wrestler. You know what I mean? Or something like along those lines. So I wanted to change. I wanted to be cool again. And I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't watch it. I don't think it's cool. I don't think the characters are cool. Then some guy named The Rock came on TV, and he was cool. And Stone Cold was cool. But they didn't wrestle. And then Mankind came, and Mankind was making him look good. Undertaker's making him look good. Shawn Michaels is making him look good. But there's no Rey Mysterio Jr., there's no Kidman, there's no Dean Malenko, there's no Fit Finlay, there's no... All those guys, all are on WCW. So then I started watching wrestling on that different standpoint, where it's like, now it's looking cool. And then it had that for a while. It was the coolest thing. Everyone could watch it because it was good wrestling, and then it just dropped off. And then all I could get guys to watch was Ricochet or Neville, but Indie Ricochet, Samurai Del Sol, El Generico, when he was El Generico. They're just trying to think of some of the guys, like there's a couple guys in Japan that were like doing really good stuff, but the rest of it, there was so little guys that could really do what Ricochet could do, or Jack Evans could do, or what I could do, that it was basically me just saying, if I don't stick it up wrestling's ass as an athletic sport, that this needs to change right now. This is the Ring of Honor controversy. Wrestling is going to stay with guys like Steve Corino doing a headlock takeover for 20 minutes and sucking these promoters out of money. And I'm getting sick of watching these wrestlers saying less is more, less is more, less is more. I said, no, it's not less is more. There's a way of doing it with psychology, but giving them everything that Ricochet and Will Ospreay gave them. Maybe slow it down a teeny bit and let them sell longer. But what they did was everything a guy that wants to buy a flat screen TV in the future, that wants to download music to a Bluetooth and wants the whole world on his watch type of match. It's the evolution of wrestling. It's all I've been talking about is the evolution of wrestling.
I got
right?
something in the back of my head right now
Yeah.
because I remember and I don't know why it's stuck in my head from almost 20 years ago when you were telling me when you were doing Mat Rats.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how the most important thing is when they hit a certain age they're out. Like we can't even let them. Doesn't matter where they're at now, how good they are, they're out. It's like Menudo. And I remember you saying that to me. And then when you talk about guys like Steve Carino and guys that can still go at their age or their injuries. I mean that's why they do this. That's why guys go to the WWE. Like that's why Generico goes to the WWE because he can't do what you're asking him to do for very much longer.
Yeah. Vince is a place when you've done, in my eyes, like you reached a certain level on the indies and you've done enough, then you get the gratification like American Dragon of being a WWE star. But how many guys were really indie stars before they went to WWE? That's the new mark of a man. Like Kevin Owens was a pretty good indie guy. El Generico was a pretty good indie guy. Samurai Del Sol was a pretty good indie guy.
And all those guys, and I agree with you, all those guys, top of the indie, they're named indie guys. And they're still, I don't think they're going to WWE for their ego. I mean, there's still that gap.
No.
Still,
I think they're going because
other
it's
than
their
maybe
time.
like the Bucks, there's who else can be at this level that wouldn't do better at working for Vince, even if it's at the bottom?
I think only Teddy Hart and the Bucks, where you let the Bucks were the same thing. I felt insulted by the WWE's first initial diagnosis of me after the 18-year-old shit. When I got back to WWE at 27. I thought there was a setup to never use me, to basically fire me just to make me quit pot and see if I could do it and make me run around and set up rings and do all of the shit that I would think would be beneath me, a third-generation guy who had been doing it already on the road. I've been wrestling indie shows, setting up rings, doing all this stuff for 12 years, guys, or 10 years while you guys waited to prove me. So it wasn't like me setting up a ring that was like the stabbing point before. Ted wasn't setting up rings. He wasn't wearing his suit and tie to shows because I'm wearing my outfit. My outfit costs more than the suit and tie I bought at fucking Moore's or wherever, whatever little suit and tie store I want to. I'm wearing my own shit, trying to be recognized and trying to sell the product and trying to sell an attitude of a very a third generation guy that's very serious about how much money, time, and effort goes into being a wrestler, and the character behind it has to be real too. And they just, for whatever reasons, like I'm trying to figure out. So I'm trying to take the question and give you guys an answer of like. There's a day where wrestling changed. I don't know when it changed. It might have been like with Jack Evans. It might have been with AJ Styles. It might have been with Red. But somewhere wrestling changed and fans saw moves that they could no longer watch the same old shit and go, that's awesome. Now and once they'd seen that, I had basically my mind, it was either gonna cause such a big ball of fire that was gonna burn up wrestling, there'd be nothing left, or it would catch guys like Stone Cold. It would catch guys like Brett. It would catch guys like Mankind. And instead of them burning the bridges with wrestling, they're the ones coming back going, are you watching this kid? Do you know how good he is? Are you watching the evolution? Are you like Dynamite Kid should watch Will Ospreay. Mm-hmm. I bet Dynamite watches Will and he has a huge smile on his face. You see no disgust. But a lot of the guys in wrestling, you watch these guys come up and you watch their face and they're going, and I'm going, you're the guy that should like him and protect him and want him to be on TV, and you're disgusted by him or threatened by him or you're scared he's going to take your last 5 years of pay. Something's wrong with the mentality of wrestling. I don't know who did it. Maybe it was you, Mike, but somebody decided to start protecting the Ricochets of the world and making sure they got more respect, they got more money, and the sacrifices they did in the ring were actually...
I think it was any of us. I think it was Ricochet.
Maybe it was just Ricochet.
I think it was the Bucks. It was Kevin. It was realizing that they're worth more than they thought they were.
But somebody backed that up by making a place to have a video audience. So whoever set up online videos, and that helped them get their name out there, because the only way I realized how good fucking Will Ospreay was by watching him. Who let me watch him? You. Facebook. YouTube. Those are the ways I got to watch these guys. Whatever mechanism in the wrestling world changed, you guys decided to let it be free to the world. Instead of trying to fucking bitch and cry about every dollar you weren't making on tapes, you said, fuck it, let them go out and make these tapes and we're going to put them on.
Crying, don't worry.
We are, but you guys didn't cry to the point where you affected the business. It was your whoever contribution in the tape level made these guys get public access to the rest of the world. The world get public access to this information. All I could watch is WWE before. I never knew there was other wrestling. Then when you started showing me how to use a computer, and then on YouTube, and then you could go through all these. Every show has its own website now, basically. Like High Spots hosts so many different wrestling companies now. You're giving them a way to wrestle. Every time they watch one, they watch another, they watch another. It's like a cat seeing another cat flush a toilet. It wants to flush the toilet too. The more you expand wrestling, the more you expand what I believe in.
Mr. Money flush the toilet?
He does flush the toilet, but he doesn't. He's weird. He did the whole toilet thing for about 6 months, and then after a while, he fell in the toilet. And it was it. He didn't like it after that. And he liked to drink out of the toilet. So he was also pissed off that he'd take a shit in the toilet, and then he was okay with it. But the other cat would come take a shit in the toilet, and then he would want to drink the toilet, and the other cat wouldn't flush, though. So the other cat would just leave it.
Dogs and cats to take their own shits.
Oh,
right?
God, to clean it up? Imagine that. A dog that cleaned his own shit up. It would
or just use a toilet.
Yeah.
That'd be the best. But Teddy, I feel like every time Teddy comes back, and when I say come back, you've been kind of laying low for a couple of years, and I know part of it was the legal issues and stuff. But it seems like you want back. It seems like you.
I want back really badly.
You say you want back, but to be back, really in essence, it's being in WWE. It's that's where everybody wants to go because that's where the money is, and we still have this problem we're coming back to with the pot. So we're coming full circle here, but you're saying that pot was your shield, but what has really changed now at 36? I mean, it seems like Teddy's a little less scary. Maybe he's not less scary, but he's trying to appear less scary, so he'll work with everybody. But,
yes.
But he's still the pot guy.
I just think the world's view on pot eventually will change, and
But is WWE's wellness policy view on pot going to change next month or in 3 years?
I think it will.
You think?
I think it will. I think it's just a matter of if I create enough hype in the real world with Rolling Stones and Lucha Underground, if they let me go back and I can get on AAA and start running my shows in Canada. I have some pretty good money and some money guys that want to run like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla in Canada type of thing, or like your show, that type of, but it's very expensive. You know that you couldn't run that show 5 times a year and make money with it. It's impossible. But my guys have oil and gas money, and they have a lot of money to blow on the first year, where it's like, listen, we can blow a lot of money the first year, and then after that the budget's real tight, and we know basically the first year is to get all these guys in. After that, get a real small tight group of guys that are cheap. None of the big stars would come in that we'd use to sell the small guys that we had, and then try to get the flip where we get the push from all the guys we brought in the first year to keep the next 5 years going. I wanted to have something where, in my eyes, if I could get in serious ring shape and give Kevin Nash like $100,000 out of my own pocket to walk me to the ring in WWE for a year, as like a 1-year deal, where Bret Hart, Terry Funk, Mankind, all the Teddy Hart fans that are behind the scenes that you don't really know about, that are like pro Teddy Hart, that want to see me on TV, or at least for the last 6 years of my life, they're like, at 35 to 50, if we can get you on TV from 35 to 50, even if it's Lucha Underground first, AAA, then by the time you're 38, maybe 39, go to WWE. Even at 39, I bet I'm in better shape than any one of the guys that was in there at 25.
It's not so much the age. How many years have you been on WWE's TV is really what you're watching.
Exactly.
So if you haven't logged the years, it really doesn't matter.
And it could be in there as an announcer type of thing. It could be as a manager. It could be as a wrestler. It could be as a cat guy. It could be as a guy that's on Total Divas, as a friend of TJ's. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to bring me in. It's just a matter of Triple H talks to guys that I'm friends with, because my friends are his best friends. Mm-hmm. And I told them I'm not ready. And I wouldn't sign me if you fucking asked me. It would be stupid to. Why would you do something knowing ahead of time if you ask me? I'm not down for it. I don't want to do that. Until this last year, there was no money in the world that would have made me want to do what Brett did. You could offer me $1 billion and I would have said the same thing. Listen, I made $150,000 in a month. And that money, I never spent it. It was too fast. So any more money than that, and I can't imagine making $1 million in a month, I said I had nothing to spend it on. I wouldn't know what to do, and it would defeat my purpose of playing broke and asking people for money and seeing who's legit. And I get to see a lot on the bottom asking people for help. I said I used to always be on the top, And all I used to do was just hand out money, hand out money, hand out money. I never found anything out about people. And most people hated me. Now I've asked people for help. And so many people have got up and said, you know what, you're a prick, but I'm going to help you only because you asked. And because I asked and they did, they have a vested interest in my success now. Mm-hmm. And they like me, and they tell me what they want me to do, and they have respect when they tell me, and I listen to them. Like you say to me, hey, we don't have a lot of time. Let's get it done. This isn't really, I didn't even really want to do this, but I'll do you a favor. Be here though. So it's like, no problem. I flew all the way down just to see you and go, hey, you have a big word, a big name in this business. People believe you because it's 10 years of consistent living. In order to get credit in wrestling, you have to never get caught in a lie.
See, and I still think, I have this idea that Teddy comes because he wants to go to this cruiserweight tournament because he knows this is publicity for Teddy.
You know what? I have a fucking super hot chick coming, and I got weed and some other stuff. I was thinking about fucking having sex for like 10 hours and fucking not even going.
That sounds better.
But
damn for being married.
It's I went to Ring of Honor to be controversial, and the first time, you know, I went to Ring of Honor as a fan of your show. When I bought a belt. I spent $400 on the product because I liked the product. I wanted to give money back to the company. That's the only way I can see. It's like there's an owner of a company. Did Teddy Hart pay for tickets? Yeah, he tried to buy tickets. Did he buy any merch? Yeah, he bought 4 shirts. Did he buy a belt? Yeah, he bought a belt. Fucking, that's nice of the guy to support the wrestling business. I said I bought 5 tickets for WrestleMania, never even got to go. I sat in the drunk tank. If you heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard all about that.
See, no one really knows that one.
Now that we're getting into the storytelling part of the interview, let's talk about WrestleMania Dallas and what happened on Sunday.
It was such a cool WrestleMania. That was the best WrestleMania I've ever been to because it was in Dallas. I was already in Dallas. I had been propped it all year.
I never got to watch WrestleMania. Yeah, you were at my hotel.
I bought fucking 5 tickets for like a huge amount of money. It was like I spent like $5,000 at the end of the day for VIPs and tickets and parking and shirts and everything. So Masada is a hardcore legend, big fan of mine. Came up to me and he says, "Do you guys want to drink?" And I'm like, "I don't really drink." He's like, "You gotta get fucking drunk one time with me, man. It's WrestleMania." So $750 bar tab out of nowhere, and just I had maybe 2 shots, I think. I was sharing shots, sharing. I always share my drinks with people because I don't want to drink too much, but I want to look socially cool that, you know, I'm still drinking. Because I used to not drink at all and used to piss people off all the time that I never drank. I fucking think it's gross. I don't drink. I think it's gross. I don't like it. They're offended. They're a drinker. So now I'm having these drinks, and so of course these guys are like, they're fucked up. They're partying all weekend. I don't party like that. So I'm tired, and I don't have any free energy. I don't do cocaine. I fucking don't have any stimulants. I'm a pothead, and I'm trying to fucking get testosterone replacement. So I have low test levels, and I'm smoking pot, and I'm kind of grumpy. And Masada, I see him getting taken advantage of kind of thing by some fans, and he's buying drinks. So I said, "Hey," I said, "last night you're in my hotel room all fucked up." I said, "But I remember what you said, and being a fake wrestler is different, but don't be fake to the boys on the street." I said, "And there you are. You look like you need some help." I said, "You okay?" And he goes, "I'm not feeling very well. My wife and I are having some problems. I'm kind of depressed. Somebody left me in the lobby of the hotel. I ended up sleeping on the 30th floor of the hotel, like right above this thing, and I almost fell off the edge. I would have died." And I'm like, "Oh, man, that sucks." He's like, "Why don't you have some drinks with me? You owe me that. You have a couple of drinks with me." So again, we drink $750 worth of alcohol. Jeff Jarrett comes out of nowhere. Now it's Jeff Jarrett, it's the Hurricane, me, Masada, and Karen Angle. And some other girl who's, Masada ends up telling Hurricane's wife to fuck off, that she's interrupting him. So Masada and Hurricane are negotiating a deal for TNA, for me and Masada to go to TNA and be brought in as, these guys are completely nuts. This is not any depiction of TNA. These are 2 independent wrestlers that sign independent contracts that are only allowed to be on this show per episode, depending on their behavior. Almost like it's like a shoot, like a warning that these guys are going to cause maybe, like, they're going over this angle. I thought it was so cool. So Masada's like, "You and I are a tag now. We're going to TNA. It's going to happen." And I'm like, I said, "I don't know the Hurricane very well." And I said, "I don't think they're just going to snap their fingers and bring me into TNA considering I got fucking charges." And I said, "And you're nuts. And you're drunk as shit." I said, "So whatever." So he goes, no, we're going to go to TNA. So walks back over to the table. I guess he slips, hits his head, and causes quite the scene. That my bouncer and I have like a bodyguard with me, take Masada to his room. Somehow the cops come up and they
His
go
room or your room?
to his room.
Okay.
Not to my room. I don't even have a room at the hotel. I was just staying at Jack's room. I didn't even know what room I had. I was just there flukely because I was like a bunch of other reasons that I was there, but mostly just to watch her show. So after that, we went back up. Masada got taken back up by my guys. So when they came back down, the cops had already got me. And the cop came up, and I thought the cop wanted an autograph. He was talking about. So I gave the cop a hug and a handshake. And he says, "You're too friendly." He goes, "Why are you hugging me?" And I said, it's WrestleMania. I said, we're all partying up here. I said, they said that you were coming to get an autograph. He says, I'm coming to arrest you, not to get a fucking autograph. And I said, arrest me for what? He goes, you have a $700 bar tab. He goes, that's drinking in public. He goes, how can you drink $700 worth of drinks and say you're not drunk? I said, I didn't drink the drinks. I said, ask the bartender. Bartenders switch shifts to new bartender. He says, I don't know anything about it. All I know is this tab's here. It's been paid, but we don't know who drank it. And there's a scene now because you have your cat in here. I look over and I said, the cat's not here. Somehow Masada, when he went up to the room, the people that I was with, they brought the cat back down without telling me. They brought the cat onto the bar. The cat walks across the bar. I don't have a service animal paper with me. It causes a riot at the bar. They kick me out of the bar, and the cops arrest me and saying I'm drunk in public with the cat and over nothing. So my whole weekend of awesome meeting Rey Mysterio Jr., meeting Meltzer for the first time, meeting Jericho, seeing like St. Laurent, Court Bauer, the Wally Mania, the next day going to your show, watching all that show, meeting all those guys, signing so many pictures, just the people that were recognizing me. That I was very happy my character had changed from being the prick to this new guy that everyone had found sort of something in. Now they were starting to believe in me. So it was like, wow, this is the best thing ever. Go to WrestleMania, and I'll be so excited to finally watch WrestleMania. You know how many times I've been in that building in Dallas? I've lived here for a year and a half. I've never seen the building. The whole reason I moved here was all based on me trying to get back to WWE, to get to WrestleMania, or at least watch it and be in a position where I was, and this is right before the charges hit. I moved to Dallas before I ever got charged, so this was the perfect place to be. And by the time it went up a year, I'd never done anything with wrestling really in Dallas. I think I'd wrestled like 3 shows in Dallas. The rest were all outside. And I had a little house here, and I was completely wasting my time sitting in fucking Dallas. Didn't know what the fuck I was doing. There's no wrestling shows in Dallas. There's no wrestling school in Dallas. There's nothing in Dallas that's really wrestling oriented except for WrestleMania, which happens once in 20 years. So once that WrestleMania hit, I'm sitting in Dallas going, what the fuck am I still doing in Dallas for? I can't believe I'm in Dallas, and I never got to watch WrestleMania. I sat in the drunk tank for 6 hours that night.
So they took you away. The tickets were where?
Who knows? I couldn't even find it where the tickets were. I don't remember anything more than just like it was the. I don't know how to explain it more, Mike. I was just so frustrated. I like blacked out. Once I got into the thing, I was so upset that I was either gonna have a spaz or just accept the fact that it was a really good weekend, and somehow I got caught here. I called my dad, and my dad said, "Listen," he goes, "don't worry. They wrote your name down wrong, so you don't have an actual ticket. You just have 6 hours to sit and rest." He goes, "You didn't pay for the WrestleMania tickets anyway. You got your sponsor to pay for them, and except for yours." So I paid for mine, which was like whatever, the $1,000, and the rest were paid for by the sponsor. So the sponsor, he was a little more upset once he found out that all the people that he'd flown down there and paid for hotels couldn't watch WrestleMania. So he downgraded my car from a Maserati to a Jaguar. So that was my punishment. But he got me a brand new car to drive around in for WrestleMania. So I picked up Rey Mysterio Jr. and Conan in a brand new Jaguar. I drove it all the way from Canada.
That cold interview that you did,
yeah,
that was over Mania weekend, right?
That was over Mania weekend.
It seemed like there was a lot of tension with you and your dad in that interview.
Yeah, maybe. It just depends. Like my dad's very smart, strict business cop kind of guy, right? And he knows he's got a wild son of a bitch on his hands with me for up until about maybe 4 years ago, right? Then I started really trying to make it easier on my dad. I saw my dad as a guy that instead of fast forwarding his heart attack and trying to get some early inheritance off of him, do the work on the planet and keep him alive long enough to see you do something good with your life rather than having him die and you got some free money and you did something after the fact and then he's in heaven watching. didn't sound like a good plan before, but then you get to, dude, I'm aging too. As much as a Superman as I think I am, or as magical powers, life is life and time is time. And when you start to realize the time you have wasted or not said the right things to people, you feel shitty. My conscience started driving me nuts. All the guys in wrestling that I wanted to say something to, like sorry, or I shouldn't have been that hard on you, or I didn't know how much time you spent on the road. Maybe the move you did wasn't as hard as my move, but the time you spent on the road away from your family is way harder than what I ever did. I didn't know until I did it, and I won't give a compliment to a guy until I've actually lived it, and I watched the guy, and then it means something coming out of my mouth. Otherwise, I would rather say you're a fake piece of shit, and I never thought wrestling was that hard. Now I've done it, and it's impossible, and the guys on the road spend the time on the road are the guys I respect the most. So it's just my opinion of the business changed, and the fact that wrestling got so good again, the athletes, I wanted to get behind them again. So now it's like finding a way to raise $10 million behind the scenes again to make sure there's another show like Lucha Underground on in Canada. That I get the next group of guys out of wherever they're at into dojos like NXT. I claim I'm like responsible for NXT. I have to be, because I used to tell Triple H and Shawn and Vince and that you're pissing on the crop ahead of you. You're pissing on the seed. And if you guys piss on the seed, then you feed the seed to the fans. In the future, the fans are going to get sick with contaminated fucking crop. No one wants to eat shitty wrestling. And if you guys don't change it and build a feeder system for the guys to train and do something with before they get there, you guys will have no future. And now you see what I think the future of wrestling is NXT, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, your show, those type of shows where that's the style that Triple H knows that's what's selling tickets. And that's why there's a light heavyweight tournament right now. I don't have to be in the light heavyweight tournament to be a guy that definitely owns WWE stock still and would put behind the scenes a lot of time and energy. And my word might not be money, but my word's definitely worth something still, that you need to have the best guys on TV right now. This is where the world's going to watch. And if wrestling's good again, they're going to be hooked on watching Dynamite Kid, Tiger Mask, which is two light heavyweight guys again. The Pac and Neville, all light heavyweight guys to me. The heavyweight tournament would be cool too down the road. I hope they do a heavyweight tournament. Just because the fact that they're bringing in so many guys that get the WWE rub they would have never got before. Sure. I always have a WWE rub since I was born with the Hart name. Mm-hmm. I get the WWE rub. So getting a WWE rub doesn't mean as much to me as what people think. What means more to me is the guys that wouldn't have got a rub getting a rub because I'm not in there. So I'm not taking any distraction away from 10 guys. Later, there'll be a time and place if I'm good enough, and I believe I'm that good in wrestling and I'm that good of an athlete, where I'll just appear in 6 months from now. And as you said, I will wipe the floor with the guys that thought they were better than me because they still haven't caught me. And I've taken 10 years off to be the most controversial bomb in wrestling. To go, guys, athletically, Ricochet and Will Ospreay just caught me and Jack Evans now. I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, the same moves, and they still haven't done it as clean as me. So I'm actually going to have Mike go back and watch some of his tapes and go, I don't think there's anyone that did it as clean as Teddy Hart for as long as Teddy Hart without ever getting hurt, and still created a character on the side that you could laugh at, you could get behind if you wanted to be that guy. You want to believe in that one character. You want to be the badass. The guys that are my fans now, I see them and I'm like, you were my fan 5 years ago and it wasn't popular to be a Teddy Hart fan and you got shit on for it and you're still a Teddy Hart fan now. Now it's popular to be Teddy Hart fan. He's like the bad guy that everyone...
Until...
Yeah, until what?
I don't know. You tell me. You're more in control of that.
Well, that's your call. This is my last shoot video I do. So this is the shout out to any wrestling fan or wrestler out there that talk is talk. I've been talking about this comeback. I watched Brian Cage. His body is phenomenal, and the work he put into his body and the fact that he's improved and he still moves like a cat. So if you could put 20 pounds of muscle on me and imagine what I'm going to do to the world, and I have guys like Mike as advisors now that tell me when to shut the fuck up and when to show up and do my job, and then they could put me on shows in front of 5,000 people at WrestleMania weekend in Orlando, and I can try to have the best match of the night. And it goes right back to that is substance. Is Teddy Hart one of the best wrestlers on the planet still? Has time passed me by? And that's hopefully you buy a ticket to watch and see my failure or my success. And I think I got 15 years of good wrestling left in me. And whoever's got the time and energy to get behind me, I put the same thing back into that company. It's my life on the line. I try to do more than anyone else ever did before me to create a certain controversy and a style that's copied and continued and changes the way wrestling looks at. And in the future, wrestling's entertaining because I think guys like me and Jack Evans and a bunch of other guys sacrificed their bodies.
Do you remember the first time you met Jack?
Yeah.
Because he told us a story. I want to see how it matches up with your story.
The very first time I met Jack, when he came to Calgary. See, Jack met some other guys first, though, because Jack had two kids of mine from my wrestling school who flew out to Washington and they did shows, and they found Jack. And one of them became a cop, and then the other one convinced the other one that there was no money in wrestling, that they should both become cops. So they both started training to be cops. But Jack was with Tim Flowers. Tim Flowers was in Seattle, Washington, or Tacoma, Washington. And then he came up, and I think Jack thought I was like a drug dealer, a coke dealer or something.
He told us
like
a story
that.
involving some hockey sticks that I was going to say how you remember it.
Oh, that's a different one. Jack, when I first met, that wasn't the first time I met Jack. The first time I met Jack was when I made Jack smuggle weed into hockey sticks from California back into Canada. Yeah, him and another guy.
He said he barely knew you then.
Oh, yeah, he'd only known me for a month. Because he came up for a month, and then after the first month, then I said, "Do you want to go on a trip with me?" So then he flew home, and then I picked him up on the way, I think, into Washington, because he drive up through Washington from Alberta to get into California. And I wanted to show him all my grow-ups and all the airplanes that I had and stuff, how I got all the marijuana distributed all throughout the world, and that I wasn't just some joke. I said, I'm way bigger than you could have possibly imagined, and a scary, scary guy that wrestles for fun as a hobby, just because I wanted to have something to do to launder my money. And he said, I can't fucking believe that. He goes, you just drive across that border with your airplane and you don't have to pay any fucking... Actually, he goes, yeah. He goes, I can't imagine. He goes, how much money those guys make flying marijuana into the States? I said, well, there's the reason Canada doesn't have a military. We don't make any money in Canada, yet we have the U.S. protecting us. I said, you know how many people smoke pot behind the scenes in the United States of America? I said, way more fucking than cocaine, crystal meth, or pills combined. Mm-hmm. I said, so marijuana still wins. Which is all I ever said is God will win at the end of the day.
It was that Rolling Stone article
that
I was reading about you. It's like, I think I really... Because no one really understands Teddy Hart. But I think I understood Teddy reading that article. That wrestling, when it fits into Teddy's puzzle, was a big part of your life.
Beautiful.
But sometimes it's not always fitting in there.
It was something I did as more of a challenging to the rest of the world. What I thought wasn't being done right. I'm barely wrestling. If I can do all this shit, then please, guys, let Ricochet train for 6 months and look what he can do. And he did. Look what Neville can do. And he did. Look what these guys... So I was just a guy that wanted to put the mirror on wrestling again. I have a certain power to get people to notice something. It could be good or bad. But what they notice is based on their own free choice, their own eyes, their own ears, not on me. So all I'm doing is putting them in a direction. And then when they see that, they're going to tell me what they think about it. I live on what they think. If what they think is that's the best product they've seen, and I'm just going on their applause and their smile, then that's what I go with. And I watched light heavyweight wrestling, and it was what people watched and wanted to see. And so that's what I got behind. If it was Brock Lesnar and 3 other big guys doing some crazy shit, I would tell you, hey, this is what I'm watching wrestling for. This is what's changed it. It hasn't. It's how tough a 5'10" guy, 165 pounds could be to another guy who's watching from a wrestling standpoint going, I know wrestling's fake. How is he walking still? That's impossible. That's, to me, when I watch wrestling now, I'm going, how do you remember those 8 fucking spots? I don't know how he did it. I'm trying to remember as a fan, and then remember that I'm not a fan. I'm trying to watch this. This is my competition, and I'm scared now. I still believe in my heart after this 6 months of me this is like 6 months of me really training now hard, where I'm going back and watching tapes and watching a lot of old stuff. I'm breaking down every hold. Where like if you watch Zack Sabre Jr., really, really good stuff, but it's a lot of old English stuff from 25 years ago. I'm watching that old English wrestling now, coming up with a lot of cool stuff. Innovation is what I keep pride myself on. And this next round is what Teddy Hart's going to make his name for being the most innovative guy in wrestling, because everything's been done. So if I can come up with another 20 moves now, after everything's been done, then people will say what I used to say, I wanted them to say before, was I invented more moves than anybody in wrestling history. The concept of to change the way wrestling moves are looked at or the way they work.
So one of the concepts in that article, the Rolling Stone article, is Conan kept saying that he gave you a last chance.
I gave Conan his last chance.
I was going to say, first of all, did you like the article, and what did you think about Conan's comments?
Didn't like the article. Thought Conan was a baby, a big baby in the article, and I thought Conan for the years has been one of those guys that's like. He sometimes helps my career, but if it's financially not benefiting him, even though he says to me, like, with the look on his face, whatever money did I make off of you? And it's like, I don't know, you made a lot of money off me and Jack, and you still make money off of me and Jack to this day. If you had any power or a stroke or actual stock in AAA, which I don't know what you'd have. I've heard so many different stories with Conan. I didn't like the Rolling Stones article at all. I thought it was a bullshit article because it was a depiction of what wrestling thought of me. And that was 6 years ago.
So the writer contacts you and says, "I want to do an article on Rolling Stone."
No, the guys that did the documentary on me said, "We're so sorry for ruining your life. We'll throw you a bone because maybe Rolling Stones can help you get some money for your wrestling school because it looks like we've destroyed your life." I said, "You guys have cost me my wife, my house, all my vehicles, my millions of dollars."
So just slowing down here a little bit, so because we're going to cover.
Yeah.
So when you say the video project that you're doing,
Open Sky Pictures called Heart Attack.
and so we shot that for nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
We saw a couple trailers come out.
Got picked up. DirecTV, or not DirecTV, Bravo picked it up. I think it was first Discovery Channel picked it up. Then Bravo got it after. And right when they were about to sign the deal, fairly big deal, those girls hit the newspapers with confinement and extortion and whatever, rape or whatever the charges were. And the deal fell down the toilet.
And I just want to be clear about when we say this, because I'm not judging. I'm not this. All this has been settled. When you say these girls, these were the girls that
my
worked,
wife and her
that
girlfriend
lived in your house
and lived in my house and worked with me. We went over this in Colt's interview a little bit, and another one in the Jericho maybe, because I don't think Jericho's podcast has been released yet, and it's fucking crazy.
I'm sure.
I wish I didn't do it. I
Why?
wish I did, because you just did. I talked about stuff I shouldn't have talked about. I didn't really want to talk about stuff like that. Like stuff like I talked about trying to bribe a principal when I was 18 years old. And it turned into a sexual thing where this guy was a homosexual principal and he tried to get me to do sexual things for him after. And I couldn't believe that I even was in this position. So I just went to my dad and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm not into what this entails. I'm disgusted with myself that I've even got myself into this situation where he's now asking me to do anything sexually as a favor because I owe him because I have a diploma." He said, "What happened?" He goes, "You try to suck a guy's dick for a job as a joke." And I said, "Fuck no." I said, "But the guy's asking me and saying that he's had so many people over the years do all sorts of shit for a diploma that it's not a big deal." And my dad says, "You and the guy in the mirror, what your conscience tells you can get away with is what you can get away with. It's something you think you can look yourself in the eye and say you did and live with yourself for 50 years down the road, then go do it. If you can't, then know yourself," like Bruce Lee said. He goes, "At least something I've taught you over the years. Watch all the movies you watched, the Bruce Lee movies. Did you learn anything about know yourself?" It was just the rule, Bruce Lee, know yourself. He says, "It looks like you know yourself." He goes, "You don't feel good about what just happened. You got a free diploma." He goes, "What are you worried about? You didn't do anything." I said, "I'm worried about all the other kids in the future that he does get." And then my dad says, "Whoa, now it sounds like you have a conscience. Maybe you should go do the right thing then and turn yourself in and go talk to the cops about this fucking principal being a danger." So I did, and I told Jericho I'd never mention that. That's how I started working as an undercover cop, or working with the cops, doing stuff, trying to help them out, because they said it was so weird that a guy like me would go turn in my own diploma and rat myself out for bribing a principal, knowing it was a federal offense, because it was the right thing to do. And they said that made us think that you actually had a conscience and that you were still able to be saved. Because you are on a planetary level a dangerous person. If you go completely sour and you don't give a shit about anything, he goes, you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Instead of selling heroin and cocaine, you sell marijuana like a warrior champion. You'll argue and fight and battle cartel guys all the time with marijuana should be sold too. You can't sell this and this and this without selling this too. You got to have the balance. Or a guy like me would have no problems telling the guys I work for that you're a piece of shit. And that means doors are kicked in. That means your operation is shut down and you guys can't operate if I don't say so. So what I'm saying is I know you got to make your money, but marijuana's got to be made too. And I always had that. And I stuck to that for years because marijuana kept me, who's a junkie, addictive personality, away from cocaine and other drugs that I would have tried once, I'd be dead. Literally, if I tried them once, I watched other guys that were like similar mindsets to me. They tried them once, they were dead. So I got into stuff like that with Jericho instead of talking about my future, which is what I wanted to talk about. A lot of guys wanted to know, who the fuck were you in the past and can we trust you in the future? Jericho is one of those guys, maybe like you too. Explain, give me something to understand why you were like this. And I said I was like that to catch guys like me. And if you were like me, I knew you were dangerous and you weren't a good person for the planet. So I got rid of guys like me, even though I respected the guys like you. And I said that to Colt, guys that were straight up, guys that were honest, guys that showed up on time, guys that ran a business, guys that if I shook their hand, it meant something. Those are the guys I want to keep alive on the planet. And the only way to get rid of those fucking the shitbags and to save the guys like you is to police guys like me. I said, because guys like me are the ones that take the shortcuts or are trying to find the holes in the system. I said, but you can assure yourself my mother and father raised me to make sure to find the holes, but not to show other people how to get through them. The last thing in the world is you want people knowing what I know, or how to get out of doing things, or to be able to get certain things done. I haven't worked a day job, guys, in 19 years. I've always had a $100,000 vehicle. I've always spent at least $100,000 a year on pot, just on pot. People think it's a joke, and it's like, man, you know how much pot I smoke, and how many people I get high, and how many grow-ups I paid for, so guys had a business instead of selling drugs to their kids and their brothers.
Explain to me when you say a grow-up.
A grow-up is you buy the lights, you get a warehouse or a building. So in California, it was the only place my dad could take my money from WWE and turn it into something that was going to give me a lifetime of fun. Otherwise, I'd just piss away my money the first 2 years like all the other wrestlers did. So my dad took my money from me, and he bought a warehouse in California, and he hired people to work for me. And so these guys worked for me for years, and they grew pot, and they'd sell it to a co-op, and they'd sell it to their dispensary, and I'd get a little bit of money, and I wouldn't have to pay for pot. And until I set up, I actually wrecked one of my businesses because I was down there, and I'm sloppy, and I'm wearing like a gold chain, and walking around with the watch on and stuff. And I drew attention to the grow-op, and the grow-op got robbed because of my sloppiness. So again, down the road, you learn with experience of life. The last thing in the world is I want to hurt my poor Mexican family that's growing pot for me, that sends all of the money back to their fucking family in Mexico to make money. They have a little restaurant and stuff. So I didn't realize it wasn't just hurting me. I was hurting a lot of other people being a certain way. So a lot of the businesses that my dad set up are Teddy Hart not allowed to go near them, because if I touch the business, it turns to shit because of the lifestyle choices I would make before, showing up late, having pot on me when it shouldn't be stinking of pot, and I'm walking into a meeting and then the guy goes, you smell like pot. We don't smoke, he doesn't smoke, she didn't smoke, and you got 4 kids outside that heard you were Teddy Hart, the famous wrestler, that wanted an autograph, and we don't want our kids anywhere near that smell. Even though it's not the worst, it's still not legal. It's their opinion, not my spin on it. It's what that mother of 7 kids thinks. She doesn't want her kid around pot. I'm out now. Where before, if I was smart, I would have had all those fans. Maybe I would have changed the way the Teddy Hart character worked, but I don't think it would have done anything. I don't think I was ever supposed to do anything until now, Mike. Like, my destiny in my life, I've been on where I try to get on track, let's say 3 times in my life, where I really thought this was going to be a good time to start being a wrestler. No way.
I'm just trying to still figure it out, because it's usually either we change because of money or near-death experiences, or you had some conscious call.
Yeah, conscious call for sure, and also a near-death experience with just the fact that Teddy Hart almost lost his career. Like, there's no more time for me, and I did nothing. So that is a scary. You look in the mirror, you always believe you're going to have this time to do. I always had a vision of Teddy Hart on TV, and it just kept getting less and less, but I always kept seeing it. Now I'm looking at that vision, and I'm wondering if I'm delusional, if I lost my fucking mind, and I'm just trying to hold on to something because that's what's been keeping me going for all these years, like a robot. So I'm like a robot now, where now the reality of the robot is kicking in, where the program I've been told is a lie. So I've been walking to meet this goal someday, and I realize maybe the goal is never going to be there. I'm never going to be in WWE. I'm not, and that's not what I'm saying to you. It is, I'm reaching that point where that hit me though in a mirror, and I realized if I don't do something now to change the whole thing, I'm never going to make it.
Just going back, because I want to tie this in. So you had a company that followed you around for two years. So what was the goal at that time of what they wanted to produce, and what were you trying to show to people that would watch it?
I try to do this more because I find I'm better off when with that show, we wanted to go to Mexico, and they wanted to show AAA in Canada. And they wanted to do commentary over the Mexican commentary because they'd never had English commentary with Mexican wrestling. So that was their first thing. And then it was to show all of the girls and guys that I meet on the road. So this would be a show for fans to get their 5 seconds in. Because if everyone gets 5 seconds as a fan, you get to watch the show later. You're going to be the first one to watch to see if you're on the show type of thing, because it's interactive with the people. So it was another thing, is to taking these huge Mexican audiences that just do nothing after the shows. They just sit there and trying to organize party type of things, where I'm taking advantage of AAA's huge crowds So I'm now benefiting from these 8,000 people in a small room that no one's using it. They're not making any money once it happens. They all just spread out. So we thought, again, same thing, reality show, party after the show. That's going to sell. Before the show, no one's ever seen what goes into making a match. Besides showing their faces, you can't show their faces. Everything else, we had full access to everything. So it was a show of like me making my outfits, me going down to Mexico, me getting maybe 10 kids off of the poorest shelter to come watch the wrestling show with tickets, buy them pants, clothes, and a hat, and they get their autographs from their favorite wrestlers. That would be a cool episode. Like that, the show is supposed to be about bridging the gap of what an arrogant wrestler actually does, which is nothing arrogant. I'm all about the people. I'm always after the show, signing autographs, taking guys out, and that's the good flavor. That's a good person. That's the guy they liked. So that was what they wanted to show the world, and then it turned out to be, because I have a multiple girlfriend relationship, that was where they pushed it. All of a sudden, oh, he's got 2 girls, let's go with that. I'm like, all the work we did for charity, all the pictures we signed, all the fucking buildings we filled with people, we can't do any of that. It's all about, he got 2 girls. So after a year of filming the 2 girls stuff, the show is mostly filled with 2 girls and me doing nothing. Because they couldn't get me to do anything that was really controversial. I knew better. I knew it was just like a...
And it was those 2 girls that
charged me.
Charged you.
And again, this is one of those interviews where like I feel like my words are stuck in my mouth because I was unprepared. I didn't know what kind of questions we were going to do because I have never talked to you yet. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if it was going to be about the cat or about... A lot of the stuff I have to say is... I can't say it like I used to because I used to try to forecast the future. And it would be used against me. Now I just want to state of kind of direction I want to go in, and then like every other person in the world, start doing the hard work that gets me there. And the hard work, for some reason, seems to always get distracted. There's something that comes up, or 9 other projects. One thing Conan said that was true, he goes, you got to give Teddy Hart 4 things to do, and make sure those 4 things are done, and he'll be awesome. But if you let him come in, he'll have 50 things on that list to do, and he'll do 27 of them. But the other 20 they won't get done, and you'll see him looking like he failed, and it's like, I don't feel happy right now and I feel like I've let somebody down. And it's like, well, you did your part as a wrestler. I said, yeah, but there's 19 other parts that I could have done, being a very smart guy or seeing all of this shit. What if I was a secret architect of wrestling and I always wanted wrestling to be that business that I could get into at the very end as the worst, most controversial guy ever, and then when people see what I really was, they go, man, that guy made us all watch him though. That one time, there's nobody in wrestling that you want to see more fall on his face or watch that first time than Teddy Hart, even to this day. You put me on TV in a year from now against The Rock or against John Cena or against Shawn Michaels, and I'm a jacked, juiced up with a prescription testosterone replacement, not smoking pot then. Is it going to affect me getting a job in WWE? Me smoking or not smoking? Not a chance. If WWE wants Teddy Hart, they'll let me smoke pot. They'll say you can smoke pot and pay your $12,000 a year to the wellness policy like Randy Orton did or Matt Sydal did or whoever guys thought it was worth it to smoke pot. It's not that. It's a matter of Triple H. Does he have a storyline that I deserve to get? Because if they give me, whatever they give me is going to be fucking gold. Do I deserve it? And that's the thing is, it's not a matter of is Teddy Hart going to be a big star? Of course I'll be a big star. Do you want me to be a big star? Do you have the control over me to have me go out and do things without you guys, the control? Why do you like a certain kind of dog? Because the dog listens, it's obedient, it does.
I was going to say, I think for Teddy to be successful, Teddy has to be able to turn Teddy off when someone else wants him to be off. And I'm not sure you have that.
Again, it depends on the guy that I listen to. Certain guys, I respect them in the real world. So if they tell me to do something, I do it. You're the guy I respect in the real world, so I do it. This is a video. I did this one about whatever you wanted. I wanted just to inconvenience myself for you. I knew you got me. Nobody talks to me like you did. You're the only one that talked to me with a certain level of respect of a businessman. I said, this guy's talking like a businessman, very polite, giving me the right times. He'll take care of the hotel. Some other scumbag, oh, hey, Ted, are you going to get a hotel? It's like, okay, so I'm getting a hotel, I'm getting a flight, and then I end up getting stiffed on the video. That's the story of everyone else. With you, I already know. Hotel, covered, organized, shows up on time, 3 cameras, everything's perfect. So why fuck you? No, you're the only one that's going to tell the world going, I gave him a chance and he was good. I want this to work this time. I didn't want it to work before. I always tell people, I'm like, don't be fooled thinking as I said it, I wanted it. I didn't want it before. There was no reason I didn't have it. None of my guys were in. The world wasn't the way I wanted it to be. The world is so close to being the world I want to walk around being a superstar in now. The world's a beautiful place to me, minus some craziness that's going on. That's the government and population control. I have no say over it. But the world to me with technology is a beautiful place now. And people appreciate wrestling like they've never appreciated it before. And it makes me love wanting to be a wrestler. I like the fact that I wake up in the morning and I want to be a wrestler again. For 10 years, I did not want to be a wrestler. I felt like I was cursed. And I was a wrestler that was given too much talent and ability in an area where nobody progressed fast enough to get up to me. My closest competition was Shawn Michaels. And he didn't want to wrestle me because he knew evolution was evolution. Shawn Michaels is going to look like an old man the way he made Brett look like an old man. And he wasn't ready to pass the torch back on to me. And Brett pissed off a lot of guys that had the Hart name in their mouths, and they were going to spit on the Hart name rather than chew it and turn it into something that tasted good, if that makes sense. And that's where now Brett's back, but he's not controlling anything. He's just there. So they can still make money with him, but they've already had their Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels big thing. What's the next thing they can make money with Bret? Tyson Kidd coming back with a broken neck? I don't think so. Natalia, she sounds like, I don't think they're going to revamp her and change her character or do anything with her. Think Harry Smith's going to come back? Maybe if Harry Smith came back and fought Brock Lesnar in UFC.
You think Tyson's ever going to come back?
I think he could. He's so strong and he's such a good athlete. I think he could, but I think because of safety and reality of that he shouldn't ever do anything. Why risk it? You know.
Well, one thing, and it's not really going to fit on anywhere in our conversation.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, you had it was at Jersey All Pro,
Yeah.
I believe. There was like Chris Hero, and Saban against Kurt Angle, and a lot of people made a big deal out of maybe the interactions you and Kurt had. Do you just have any memories of maybe what happened there?
Yeah, I told Kurt, if you're not going to get in the fucking ring and wrestle, then don't ask for $15,000 for the show.
You said that to him before the show?
No, I said it to him during the ring. I said because we were just fooling around.
Right.
And I always said that I was another guy, and people think this was crazy, but I always thought Kurt Angle was overrated on taking a punch in the face. I always thought he was a good shooter, toughest wrestler in the world, but no one had hit Kurt Angle in the face before he took his double leg takedown. And I always thought to myself, I'm like, it sounds like shit now because I'm too old and he's too old, but I would have loved a year to train to fight Kurt Angle because everyone thought he was so tough, and I always thought he couldn't throw a punch. So I watched him when I was 18, 19, 20, and I trained with him. I had his very first match with him. That's why we were friends. And I said, I was a better athlete than you then, and I'm a better athlete than you now, and you cut me out of wrestling. Guys like you were scared to have me go out and do what I did because you could barely handle learning wrestling as a sport, let alone learning 50 new moves that I was doing.
All this in the ring.
This is my beef to him. This is over years. So in the ring, over the years, I'd watched Kurt Angle cut me completely, never say a word, that he had no interaction with Teddy Hart, like he didn't even know me. And I said, it's funny that your very first 2 matches were with Teddy Hart. So we had this angle when we went out there. I was saying stuff to him from when we were 18 years old, and he was laughing, going, fuck, you're right, because he knows me. Shelton Benjamin doesn't know him as well as I know. I've known him longer than Kurt Angle, than Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, even though they knew him maybe from amateur wrestling tournaments way back. I was the very first guy with him. So no, it was a work. But people thought it was another reason to bury me, that if Kurt Angle's now against me, it's one more of the guys, like the upper echelon guys that hate me. So make sure the world of wrestling is scared shitless of me getting anything. So they spin it as fast as they can get it back out to the internet fans that it's some kind of controversy every time. And it's starting to backfire now, where they've done it so many times, like Crying Wolf, where like the perfect example was your video with high spots. Watch the video. And watch the video on YouTube. The video on YouTube makes me sound like like I'm nuts, like I can't answer a question properly, and I'm all over the place. Watch the video, and this video I'm all over the place compared to the one with Trent and Chuck. But that video is very concise. They asked me a lot of questions. They gave me time to answer. They weren't trying to manufacture my answer. Like Colt Cabana was trying to make my answer a certain way. He wanted a certain answer to a certain question, and if I tried to divert off, he would bring me back because he wanted it to look a certain way or sound a certain way. Kevin Gill let me talk. Conan was in the room, so you got to hear Conan in a room with me. If you're going to talk to me and me and Conan are in a room, Conan's not going to spin that bullshit that he's going to spin over a podcast. Not a fucking chance. Not to my face. And he couldn't. So in a room with Conan, Conan tells the truth. Ted wasn't fired from AAA. Ted left AAA because of his wife. Ted wasn't fired the first time or the second time. Again, he left because of his wife. Why? Well, because my wife was in a car accident. Why? Because my wife was in jail. So Conan was the one that told me. And then when I hear the thing on the podcast, Conan, Ted got fired. It's like, dude, you guys paid me $400 a fucking show. I made more money driving around escorts and selling cats than I ever did working for AAA. I worked for AAA because it gave me some notoriety and it was cool to be on TV in Mexico, because in Mexico people actually respect wrestling. In Canada, no one cared about wrestling anymore, so it didn't mean shit if I was on TV for TNA. If it wasn't on WWE TV, no one's watching TNA TV in Canada anyway, so it was like you're better off going to Mexico and enjoying the perks of being a wrestler down there than trying to milk it in Canada, where it's been well milked. Benoit's dead, Brett's dead, Owen's dead, Davey Boy's dead, Neidhart's dead. Even if they're not dead, their names are dead in Calgary. No one's watching wrestling. No one cares. So get out to Mexico and try to keep my name alive out there. And then, I'm just trying to think how to...
That noise is Mr. Money.
Yeah,
right?
that's what it is. Okay, I'm trying to think. Come here. I'm like ADD, guys.
He's out.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick him up because he's distracting me. I was wondering what that was.
So what are the things... I mean, I can sense when a guy has an agenda, when he wants to talk. Some guys don't like to talk. So you've been doing a little bit of talking to everybody. You mentioned that Colt had a direction for you. What was your direction for me? What was your direction here?
Just to be your friend.
No.
Really, to be...
I'm an outlet for like everything else.
Oh, no, that to be... If you like me, then I can sell all my products through you for the next 10 years. And that was my negotiation, was get rid of PWS, get my library back, try to get you and Feinstein, whoever the two guys that control the most tape stuff out there, to give you as much of my stuff that I have that no one's seen yet, and then get you to but in a way where we're friends, where you're going, I like the way he did this, and he set up the Trenton, where they made me look bad to make me look good. Mm-hmm. I like that. You made me, you're one of those guys, if I fuck up, you're going to say I fucked up, but if I didn't, you're going to say, he's supposed to fuck up, he's supposed to show up late, he's supposed to show up with pot in the room, and he showed up with no weed. He showed up on time. He showed up with his cat and no entourage whatsoever at all. Why for you? Because you check my text messages. Talk to me like a businessman. Hey, Ted, how are you? Got back to me within 5 minutes. You are the only guy that's a big money maker who doesn't need fucking... bunch of joke guy. We need you. You're an organized businessman. The reason wrestling is good is because I can call High Spots and order a ring anytime I want, and it's always the same. You ever order a ring from somebody else? You ever do anything with anyone else that's wrestling related? And then I see this Mike, who I've been watching for years. Why are you so smart? Why are you running it like a business? You're the only one that did it. In my eyes, let's just say if Vince McMahon and I were talking in a room, he would say you saved indie wrestling. It was your organization that makes us important enough to be taped, and people care about it now. Without you, I had no purpose. Indie wrestling is so important now that I don't have to be in WWE to make it as a world superstar. I can be an indie wrestler that Rolling Stones talks about because of guys like you. So that to me, it was to go back and say thanks to you and thanks to Rob Feinstein, who I fucking buried. But it was a good friend of mine in real life. A good friend of mine. I like Rob and Genius. But when it came down to it, I buried Rob because Rob didn't stick up for me in the Ring of Honor controversy. He just let me burn. And shit happened to him after, and that whole thing happened to him. And I was the first guy, I don't know if Rob ever told you, but I was at his house. And this was on Jericho's podcast. This is why I asked Jericho to take his podcast off. I didn't want to do the Jericho podcast after I talked about all this shit.
Well, I talk to Rob almost every day.
And Rob is one of my best friends, and I told Rob I'll be the first guy to walk you back in a building, and I'll make sure you're the first guy on TV, and I'll be the one standing with you, because you should not be out of wrestling. There's way worse guys in wrestling than Rob Feinstein. Way worse guys in wrestling than Rob Feinstein. And so I stuck up for Rob for years, and people laughed at me, and they said, I'll never do a show if Rob's on a show. I'll never work with Rob again. And first time Rob had money, Steve Crano was working the match with me versus Steve Crano for Rob and Doug. And Doug, another guy, same thing. Rob told me, you are a very smart, very sharp. Do not treat him like one of the wrestling guys. He'll never forget it. But if you treat him like one of the guys that makes money for a bunch of us fucking retarded wrestlers, sorry, Colt, but us retarded wrestlers, you save us. The sloppy guy that makes a mess in a hotel. You ever seen a locker room after wrestlers are in it? It's a mess. You ever seen a locker room after your guys are in it? It's a mess. Guess who's cleaning up? You. It's you, your guys. I'm like, he likes everything to be a certain way. That's $1 million. That's a businessman. I want him to notice that I'm not nuts. It's just a work. How do I get you to notice that I'm that smart? That what made you not like me later on, you'll go. He had to have something against him because there was no way he was going to get in. Otherwise, he already proved it. I got in doing moves, guys. Didn't mean shit. I got in athletic ability. Didn't mean shit. I got in with the biggest name in wrestling history. Didn't mean shit because they can't control me. I'm not going to show up every single time like The Rock. I didn't go to the fucking university for that long. I didn't play for the Stampeders. I didn't know the value of money or how hard it was to get money in the real world from everything else. Those guys did. They're not creative hustlers like I am. I'm a hustler. I'm a drug dealer, hustler, come from nothing. I'll counterfeit, buy a counterfeit watch and online and sell it to another guy for fucking a profit type of thing. Without being a complete scam artist or snake, if there's a mark out there, I'll take a mark down. And for years, I found a lot of marks that were involved with not wrestling, but just being on TV. If you're popular, if you're on TV, if you're famous, you get all these marks. The less they know about what Teddy Hart really is, or the less I really have to do for a company where they're going to make me and then show me, and then that's what I'm stuck with is this is the result, or this is the, I guess not the result, but this is the substance of Teddy Hart. Couldn't make it on the road. How do you know? Well, because he did it. How do you know I can't make it on the road now? You don't. So what's the allure of bringing me back? To see if I can do what I said I could do the whole time, which was I would dominate this sport, but guys were scared to evolve. Now that it's evolved, what are you scared of me for? My mouth? You used to be scared of me doing too many moves. Then you'd say it was my mouth. Now it's my mouth, and the moves don't mean anything, right?
Speaking about Evolve, because when we met you with Chuck and Trent, I believe that was an Evolve weekend.
Yeah.
So what was your last conversation like with Gabe? Because I'm sure that you've looked
Another fucking genius, but I don't like him as a person. He's scared of me. I can always see the fear in his eyes. I think he thinks I'm going to
he was there with the Ring of Honor day, so
yeah.
he sees you and he sees that.
He caused that to happen. That was one of those ones where I told Gabe, we can have me be the guy that listens to everybody right now, and it's going to mean nothing later when you get me to listen. And Gabe's the guy that tells me what to do now, I listen. Same thing with you. It's because you guys have enough. You've shown me that if I listen to you, you can put me in a spot where the right people will come check me out again. So I already know, like, that's why I told you, and I called you up over and over, and I never call anyone else because you were so nice to me at the show. I wanted to do something for you, and I wanted to show you again. And I think this, again, I'll say that, like, on these interviews, sometimes I can't get my words out. And this is one of those interviews where I don't feel I've been to the point. I feel it's just like a good conversation. We're kind of having a good energy, and you and I are getting along, which is weird to see you and I interacting on tape for the rest of the world. Because I don't know how much you do on these videos yourself. You do a lot of the interviewing.
I haven't done one of these in 2 years.
Yeah, so you haven't done one either. So this is the first one and I haven't done anything with you ever.
Right.
Ever. Just talked to you on the phone. And I met you at the WrestleCon thing. So I've been waiting to kind of like have you pick my brain, or what do you think I'm about, or do you care, or and then I can sort of see where you're at now already, where you're not threatened by me at all. You're very, I think, seems completely harmless. And
well, I'm not so sure that's accurate.
But yeah, I think I'm not. But I think you could see that I'm like I could almost fool people into looking like I'm harmless with the cat.
For 20 years, you said it. Teddy's been able, with his notoriety, to find the marks to get what Teddy wants.
Yes.
And now I'm trying to figure out, number one is...
Are you a mark?
Well,
no.
I don't mind being identified as one, because I've been around wrestling long enough where I know... Ric Flair got me really deep once, and that mark has learned from it. But
Ric Flair got you once?
Oh, yeah.
How?
Oh, yeah. You definitely don't read the internet, do you?
No. See, that's another thing is that I don't know enough about what's going on currently sometimes in wrestling to say something or to talk numbers with you, because a lot of the stuff I say is more out there, and then you're very to the point where someone told me 13,000 copies of a video were sold, and I said maybe 800 would be a lot. I don't even think they could sell that many videos without people knowing. Like you would hear about it.
It was 13,000 views. We looked
Yeah.
at, or went on YouTube, and believe me, we wish that would be $1.
Oh God,
So,
no shit. How many people bought the video? Do you know?
just over 300 bought, but it might have been 15,000 people that watched it. Because what happens is
Once it's watched,
it
bought.
gets watched, it gets passed on, it gets on YouTube. Oh yeah, there's so many people like say, "Hey, I saw that video. It was great." I was like, "Oh, thanks for buying it." Well, honestly, I watched it on YouTube, and I do support you other times. And
I didn't even know how I had got so far away from the wrestling business. 2 years ago, I started running my own show, and that's when I was going to buy a ring off you and talk to you and stuff.
you ran, you ran 2 shows.
Yeah, two
right?
shows, and they told me about you and how good of a job you're doing, and then I took note. And then when I saw, I've been attracted to your what you know, and why didn't I know this before? Why didn't someone tell me that Mike was the guy that was actually cared about wrestling and the progression of wrestling, the evolution of wrestling, and he knew all of his money was spent on one basically show a year to showcase this style of wrestling, with no one telling him that's too much, or you don't have that guy do that, or don't do that, or that's too much, or having some agent take away the creativity of Will Ospreay and that kid. That if you like. That was the best match I'd ever seen in my life. I came back to you after just to say to you, like, for you allowing them to go out there and do that, and not letting the boys come back to you and say, "What the fuck are you letting those guys go out and do all that stuff?" Because I saw guys in the back pissed off after that match. Before guys were complaining to me, I'm not going to say their names.
A lot of them wanted to get to the bar.
Yeah.
Really
Well, they were also, once they watched the match, they realized the bar was just raised like 25 feet over their heads. They're never going to have that kind of match in their life. So,
what did you learn 2 years ago running shows? I always find it interesting when wrestlers turn around and they run the shows, because then you realize, like, man, because I always say, do these guys realize that
how much work goes
so
into
much more if they would not do that or not do this?
I totally, I started to realize that I'm never going to do catering for a wrestling company again. I'm not getting limos. Wrestlers are ungrateful, slobs. They weren't happy. They didn't notice the difference. It could have been picked up in a shitty rental car. I'd picked up in limos. I had nice catering. All these things that I thought were going to be big deals, and that they were going to wrestle better for me than they did for other guys. Not a fucking chance. I was so disappointed with the caliber of wrestling that happened on my show. It was really, really good, but they weren't bumping like they were for PWG. And I told the Young Bucks specifically, I said, if you guys sandbag me and come in and do fuck all, even though you're my friends, with the old, "Hey, Teddy, and let's just have a good time, and we're buddies so we can get away with giving you nothing." I said, what? How much more money did fucking Dragon, or whatever his name is, from PWG pay you? Why do you try so hard there to kill yourself in front of nothing? I said, do you guys make money on the videos? Do you make money on the DVDs back? Does he have that many people buying DVDs? Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, is there 20,000 people buying DVDs a month from him? Does he have 20,000 subscribers? I don't think he does. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe that's how they can afford it. But I'm like, I said, why would you wrestle for him so hard? And then for me, I said, you guys have got a four-way match with me and you guys and Morrison. And it's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Let's just do a finish. I'm like, I said, I'm paying you guys, man, my own blood money. I've been for all these years. Can we run one show so I can film it and give it to a Canadian distributor, and I'll get a deal and I can bring you guys in every month? And, well, we don't want to do much. We're kind of tired. Are you going to pay us extra money to wrestle twice? And I said, you know what? Morrison, I said, go sell pictures. I said, go sell pictures. I said, I'm not going to even go over the match. I brought all these guys in thinking these guys are all excited to have a match with me. And we're going to have the best match ever. We'll go over all this stuff, and we'll practice a bunch of moves before the match.
Maybe you can answer this. Why do certain wrestlers try harder in certain places? Because it's not.
It's such a
it's
joke.
Not about money,
yeah, it's not about money. It's about the fans in the building somehow, or they have a certain weird chemistry, or they're comfortable there. Like Jersey All Pro, I'd always wrestle really hard in Jersey All Pro, and then if I went to Ring of Honor, would be doing less.
Why?
Because I didn't like I just thought the fans there would appreciate it more, and the boys in the back were going to be less pissed
How
off.
are the fans different from a Jersey All Pro than a Ring of Honor? They're like 30 miles away.
It's
sometimes.
just a matter of the fans read the internet. The fans that read the internet are spun that I'm a piece of shit. So all those fans that read the Ring of Honor stuff are all spun that I'm a bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy. However, and that's all you've ever read, Mike. How do you know me? What do you
Right.
From who?
No, I mean
What have you ever done with me in a business?
Business together, so everything that I knew of you was through it.
And it was all bullshit. You could pull up, if you could come up with 5 stories of me being controversial or me doing something, I'm pretty sure go nope, 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 and nope. And you'd go, okay, I'm going to go find out from those sources, because you have the same sources as I do to go back and ask the people that lied to you for 10 years and said that I was a pain in the ass. Ask Rob Feinstein who was a pain in the ass. He'll say Ted flew himself down, showed up at my house. He's the most organized, smart, cunning motherfucker who said to me, you guys look like you're all sleeping with each other, for real. This looks like a bunch of gay guys running around having a wrestling company. If that's what it is, then you guys have a wrestling company. I'm going to go get some fucking girls and bring a bunch of hot girls into a wrestling company, and it'll be perfect then. But you need more hot girls. You don't have enough chicks. So after a couple more years, what do? I find girls, find girls, find girls.
I want you to tell me the secret. You're starting a company from scratch. What does it take to make a company go?
You have to have.
What's the most important thing?
I think you have to have a really good group of fans. And where do your fans come from? That's where you have to get your fans right off the hop. If you're going to get your fans as kids, then you run a school show. You got to get the kids in there. If the kids like it, the parents come. After that, beautiful girls as managers. I'm going to put that over as more important than wrestlers that are good. You have a bunch of pretty girls that are really good. The guys, not only that wrestle, want to wrestle harder because the girls are there. The fans in the audience see you as a guy or as a company with beautiful women. Beautiful women, sex sells and also sells importance. Girls that are good looking like to hang around with important people, or the image of being important or hanging. So I think pussy sells wrestling shows, kids sell wrestling shows, and video screens sell wrestling shows. I think big projection screens sell highlights of where you were before, all the moves you did before, taking advantage of all that work. Like when you're watching NHL, you're watching highlights after highlights after highlights. If you're watching football, it's all highlights of old stuff that already happened. You're taking advantage of that history and the value of what you already did, where we're getting nothing out of the value of what we did in wrestling most of the time. Like if I bring Ricochet and I can't show a match of him and Will Ospreay on my TV because I'm running in a bingo barn that has 85 people in it. It doesn't have the technology. But if I run a proper show, all I have on the whole day is autograph sessions all day, meet and greets, and Will Ospreay versus Ricochet in the background. So by the time you've watched the match in person, you've already watched this guy go, and you watched the match, right? It's fucking crazy. I don't know how he did some of the stuff. He took a backwards Frankensteiner on the floor. But you can't get up from a backwards Frankensteiner on the floor as fast as you did. But he did. So it makes him look like a Superman now. So people are watching going, superhuman. He's a fucking alien. Those two are aliens. They look like aliens to me compared to the rest of the guys with the gravity boots on. Mm-hmm. You know, they were just moving. But then it's not true. Watch 10 other guys. You just didn't know there was those guys out there. Marty Scurll had a better match with Will Ospreay than Ricochet did, and Marty Scurll doesn't do a move off the top ropes. How's that possible? It's not about high flying. Guys go, it's high flying changed wrestling. I said, no, it didn't. It's psychology. Choreographing changed wrestling. It's knowing when the fans want to see something and knowing when to give them that move and when to take it away or tease them, then boom. And the wrestlers that are in wrestling now are so good at knowing when to do their high spots and how to place them for this new fan. Somebody showed fans how to cheer. You might have been one of the guys, but there's enough video of fans where other fans watch other fans. They go, that's how we cheer. You fucked up. You still got it. It's carried country to country.
Japan is
now they're
fans.
Yes. So once you did that, and that's why I went back to you and Rob saying it was the tape guys. It was the guys that put wrestling in front of everybody's face. Even if you were trying to just be opportunistic and make money with it, what you were doing was making money with the exposing of, if this is good enough, then buy it. If it's not, then you tell me what I just sold you shit and I'll give you your money back. Nobody brought back the wrestling tape and said it was shit. What they said was, can you have a better audience? Not a better audience, but a cleaner audience in a building like a Lucha Underground. Instead of just these random indie fans all the time, like PWG, they're not getting anything from the real world. Like when I'm watching as a distributor, I'm watching wrestling going, God, it looks terrible. You can't get more than 75 people, 150 people, 200 people. You watch a show like your show, if that was the weekly show, and you had access to that talent on a weekly basis, and that was your crowd, people, the whole world would be watching that show on TV going, this is the greatest shit on TV. But you can't get those type of guys for a year to do those type of matches for a year consistently, I don't think. Right. I've never seen it done yet. If Vince can figure out the formula, or whoever does, but there's enough people on the planet that want to see what you showed me at WrestleCon on a weekly basis. They're waiting to watch it.
You don't think groups like Ring of Honor is giving it to them?
They're with handcuffs on. With handcuffs on. It's getting better. I think it's getting better. I think the pro wrestling, I think this tournament WWE is doing right now, that's going to really push it. Let's get everyone that now is getting a chance to say, I'm now a WWE guy, even though I wasn't a WWE guy now. It's going to give them that confidence, like they lived their dream. When I feel like I've got something out of 10 years of wrestling that I didn't get before, it's going to give me a different feeling in the gym. It's going to give me a different feeling when I'm taking airplanes, traveling to different cities. So Vince is giving how many guys in the tournament?
32.
32 guys are getting a new dream. To me, that's saving wrestling. Now you're getting every one of those guys, their families, their friends, all there to watch this, and it's light heavyweight wrestling. So it's supposed to be this new hybrid form of what wrestling is. That's what this whole, to me, shit represents. Mm-hmm. This is what Teddy Hart's been crying about for 10 years. Wrestling needs to change. It needs to become more high spot orientated, harder hitting, better spots, better choreographing, and innovation of cool shit, and change the ring. The same old fucking ring for 50 years.
Yeah, are you ready to reveal what you want to do with the ring?
Yeah, I do. Unless you just want to have it.
No, we've been talking about it for 10 years. I'm ready to build it. But tell everybody what you see as a ring.
I was thinking tags, guys, skateboard ramps for a tag team partner to have a tag guy. You sit on the ramp and you're electrically connected to a handcuff on a magnet. So it's actually like a race. So you got two skateboards, a square. Guy stands on one end and he's on the other end. So when he makes the tag, that skateboarder's got to run to the other side on his ramp. He's got to go down one side and up the other and push a button. And the button uncuffs his handcuff, so now the other partner's free. So you can make a tag, but if the other guy doesn't make the tag actually legal, the tag's stopped. So that was one thing we had. And then the other thing was like a table pops out from underneath the ring, but it's actually a strip of trampoline floor. So you have those big strips of trampoline that you see at gymnastics places now. Basically, you would take a table type of mechanism, and it would be a folding table, and it would fold out from the ring. So it would be an extended apron, and that apron would be a strip of trampoline. We already did some experiments on putting a trampoline beside the ring for mat rats, just as a joke. The amount of moves we came up with was over 40 moves in one day. Having sure. Jack come up with, Jack was doing so much cool shit because he was the guy that tested the ring for us.
I mean, I think, I'm sure a lot of people say, man, he's nuts, but I don't think you're nuts.
No.
I think someone's going to get there eventually.
It's going to be there.
Maybe the first person that gets there isn't going to be successful.
Whoever gets the shoes that makes you jump higher is going to be a big guy and making money for the world. It's not a real sport. Whoever gets the fact that kids want to run around and jump and run faster without having to have some guy tell them that they're cheating in football, sure, and then take off the shoes on football. But I'm out in the playground fooling around, playing with, do you remember those stupid things that used to jump on? It had the thing, it had a ball on each end and then it had a platform, and you could jump on it.
Yeah.
What are those called?
I don't remember the name of it.
Do you remember what those were fucking cool. Why couldn't they make that more into a car type of thing where that's actually your vehicle? So you got to jump, and the more you jump, the faster you get to go. But it provides athletics combined with mechanics.
Right.
Where you used to see guys playing the
with the car. They won't let us text and drive a car, but they're gonna let us jump.
Not on, but if you're on a golf course. Right. And you're instead of taking your motorized golf cart, say you had some kind of little little machine that you got to ride on, but it helped your balance, or it kept your posture straight. Mm-hmm. Guys that have nothing to do, sitting in a golf cart all day. If this could massage your feet while you're sitting there, and it gives you a back massage, and you're just standing there on your cart waiting for you, those type of things. Where technology for wrestling, I've not got a boot that does shit. Terrible wrestling boot. What's it doing to help me jump higher? Nothing. What's the knee pad doing? Nothing. Elbow pad.
My business right now, Teddy.
Come on.
You're killing me.
You need to make. You do need them, but what you do need is, my mind is, make a boot that does something in the future. So if I could take your boot after you sold 100,000 boots to the rest of the world, go to a company in China and see if there's a guy that would represent wrestling boots on a world level. and see if they'd make a wrestling boot that kids could wear, that could change color, that could fucking, that could make you, like, the other thing we had was a lift. So we had an antenna, a TV antenna. Basically, we stuck 3 of them into a bottom of a shoe, and they went up and down on a thing, on a program. So you just pressed a button, and the TV antenna would just raise up. And that would give you a lift. So if you're in the ring and you're like this and you press a button and it would just raise your heels up in the back of your shoe so you could drop in. So Jericho's got a lift in his shoe. He wouldn't have to wrestle with the lift in his shoe being so high. He could drop the lift depending on when and where he wanted to have it in a match. If you wanted to have the lift during a match because you're doing a stare down with a guy and the guy's 6'2" and you're 5'8", and you wanted to all of a sudden be on your tippy toes without being on your tippy toes, that was the type of stuff they were doing. Small stuff. But a turnbuckle. The wrestling rope, if it's on a turnbuckle, if the turnbuckle actually raises, so say the top turnbuckle actually raises, so I want to go higher, I just press a button until it goes up another 3 feet. Now I got 6 feet of clearance instead of 3 feet of clearance off that top ropes. Can you build it into where the fans in the building pick the move I do? Or can you build it in where the fans in the building, depends on how many fans are on their phone and they all put in $1 type of thing, can they pick how high I go? Or can they pick, that's where it's like, I'm trying to come up with ways for technology to enhance what guys do in the ring, where the fans have interaction with the building.
Right. I mean, your way of putting just even a trampoline on the outside, I mean, I think someone's going to get there soon.
I put a trampoline on the outside. The other thing I did was, this is Conan's idea for me and him for Lucha Underground, was the whole floor is supposed to be padded trampoline. So the trampoline strip is completely different. It will cause you to do a double backflip, that type of trampoline. But the padded floors, do you know what the gymnasts do their those routines on, where they're doing all the tumbling?
It's like a spring.
That's what you sell as an actual ring. What's the mats on the outside called? That's what you sell. So we were supposed to build a whole, basically trampoline around the ring, and that whole thing would be spring loaded. Then you have the trampoline, so when you're actually hitting these moves, you're now hitting these doubles and stuff instead of landing on cement. You're landing on the same surface that these Olympians were landing on in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So even though it's not super soft, it's still soft enough that if a guy's hitting a double gainer and he misses and he lands on his ass, he's not blowing his fucking career. How many times do guys in the Olympics slip and fall? All the time. Yeah. In wrestling, you slip and fall, what happens? You're done. You do a move like Ricochet, a slip and fall on a double backflip, or Will Ospreay slips and falls on a 450 to the floor or something like that, he's done. His career is basically over. Why? There's no padding on the turnbuckles. There's no padding on the ring. There's very little padding on the floor. What's that thick, that shit? You still land on the cement, it hurts like hell, right? Mm-hmm. To me, taking a bump on the floor is death. Try getting a guy suplex off the top to the floor. But if you do it with the crash pad things, now you can. So that's to me, again, I'm a fan. How can I get more out of wrestling? And at the same time, I'm a wrestler. How can I not kill myself by not, I'm giving these people all this stuff. How can I still save something for my body? So technology comes into the fact that if I have a padded seat, padded pair of shorts, whenever I do my pile driver, the spring in my shorts pops me back up now, so it's not so much compression on my spine. Mm-hmm. I have, that's, again, the compression. I was talking to Jericho, I think it was, about the compression fiber shorts, and the fact that there's nothing really in wrestling that does anything just aesthetically. But on a technology level, I have a new knee brace that's I finally started wearing a knee brace just this year because I hurt my knee, and I got it at Walmart. The technology in that thing looked like someone had spent some time and energy on that type of knee brace, and it was like the hockey skates. Look how much time and money is spent on hockey skates. Could you take a wrestling boot that might be worn more by average people on the earth than a hockey skate would ever be used by people playing hockey? So there might be more people on a planetary level that would like this shoe that makes you jump higher and run faster. Nobody's ever talked about it because every sport's got stats, or you're cheating. Wrestling's the only sport that doesn't matter. It's like fucking playing skateboarding. If everyone's got a skateboard, and a skateboard, there's no rules on skateboarding. If a skateboard makes you levitate or doesn't, it's just up to the skateboard guy who makes it. So wrestling shoes goes back to that same thing with the shoes. Is just like whoever takes the shoe of the NBA guy and realize how much money did they make on shoes in NBA? How much did Shaq make on his shoe? How much did Jordan make on his shoe? So then why doesn't the Hoist Gracie shoe come out? Or why doesn't the fucking Chuck Liddell come out? Mm-hmm. Or the fucking Ken Shamrock or whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's your, I want the Johns Bones Jones martial arts shoe. No one's doing it. You're making all these stars. They got no equipment that's theirs to sell back to the kids. A kid wants a jacket. You can't buy a jacket of any of those guys. You tell me when I could buy any jacket, a Tito Ortiz jacket or Ken Shamrock jacket or Chuck Liddell jacket. They don't even have a tracksuit. Nothing. So that's like, I look at wrestling and I look at MMA and I look at the guys that are behind the scenes doing the equipment end of it and I go, man, you guys are dropping the ball crazy. You guys have nobody wanting to be you, copying your shit. The kids don't want to wear a pair of shorts, a pair of spandex shorts like The Rock. You tell me what kid's rolling around in his underwear at home wanting to wear a pair of little shorts like that, but you give him a colorful costume like a tracksuit, like it's a martial arts suit, almost like a gi. He'll wear it to school every day. So it was just all over the place. But again, just technology hasn't given wrestling any breaks except for the WWE cameras. The cameras, all the special effects, all the lights, all the tricks, all that's awesome. How is it helping me jump higher? How is it helping me take a bump and not hurt as much? How is it helping me train after the match? Is it doing anything for me? So yeah, I have the greatest camera in the world, but my car still breaks down at 25 years old because the gas I had for my car is from fucking 200 years ago. That same shitty gas. It's never been changed. Change the ring, change the equipment. Then the athletes can start doing athletic shit again. Crazy stuff. Like Rey Mysterio Jr. He makes different gear than everybody else. His gear allowed him to be more accessible and do cool shit. And then people copied it, but they didn't copy it to the point I thought they were going to copy it to, because Rey's smart. Maybe didn't want a bunch of other wrestlers knowing or doing what he did. But now it's to the point where everyone should have a certain level of gear, a quality and a certain level of boot and a certain level of knee pad, like a certain safety, that goes into a helmet for hockey or football. Wrestling has nothing. It's just like so out there. So I ask you, I'm like, if you have the controlling power and you are the guy that makes stuff in wrestling, can we make better equipment? If I've got money from two guys from Nike and they said, listen, we believe that the future of the world is going to be in this new shoe that the average person's going to wear, but it's like a boot. And it comes up to here, basically, and it's like a wrestling shoe boot, but that's the new shoe for kids, rather than all this other shit that doesn't do anything. And we sell the fact that there's a flying car coming. We sell the fact that there's all this technology that we have to kind of keep under wraps because people, their brains aren't trusted. You don't want technology to get into the wrong hands of a terrorist or some shoe that you can jump higher, and the shoe's a weapon now. What if the shoe allowed me to jump over a wall? Now I just jumped over a wall and I robbed this old lady's house. Because I got these shoes, I paid I think $2,000 for these shoes, got them in China, but fuck, I can outrun the cops in these shoes on 30 miles an hour these shoes go. And now all of a sudden I've created this new shoe and the shoe is being used for terrible shit. That's where I see their point of where it could go, but I think there's enough smart people and good people on the planet that we shouldn't have to have the flying car as only a concept. It should be allowed to be used more. Same thing with these technologically advanced outfits. Batman has one, Iron Man has type of shit.
I'm gonna make a note here. I'm gonna work on like more advanced wrestling outfits.
Yeah,
that's high spots.
Yeah.
2016. All right. So just a couple of weird off the wall questions as we wrap this up. So you've lived in Canada. You're living in the United States. How do we solve our gun problem here in the States? How do we
you're
solve it?
awesome. I think again with guns, no one in Canada has guns. Very few people have guns in Canada. So I have never walked into a situation where I walked into a restaurant and every single guy had a gun on him. And I don't know if it made it safer or not. I guess I'd rather have a gun and need it than not have a gun and not, or whatever the expression is. What's like a condom in your wallet? You'd rather have it and not need it.
So do you feel safer in Edmonton or Calgary, or wherever we're going to call home there, or in Dallas?
You got me so good on this one, Mike. I'm a fence riding politician, and I have to say on this one, I think gun control I think having guns is better than not having guns.
Okay, and that comes from a Canadian. Okay, very good.
Just because everyone that has a gun, usually if you have a gun, everyone that's kind of quiet, I find but if you don't have a gun, you got a couple fakers that think they're tough. And those are the guys that piss off the guy with the gun, or the guy like you, who's got a family and he's quiet and he's not bothering anybody, but some asshole decides to pull tough guy, and after everything you just go, do you mind moving over there, sir? I'm done talking to you. I paid my bill at the restaurant. I don't need to interact with my parents, and my two kids just want to finish our meal. And the gun, instead of you arguing with the guy having to go fist fight with this drunk piece of shit, you just ask him to step outside and to leave you alone politely. But you don't even have to pull out the gun because you know that you're carrying. So your words have more backing to it. You know what I mean? I see a lot of guys talking, and when I have a gun on my holster and I'm talking to you, it sounds like you got a different way of listening, especially if you're still maintaining respect. So it means it's a verbal game of if people can learn how to talk better to each other, I think everyone should have a gun on them. And if everyone talks the right language, then it's even better. But the gun will make sure that just in case there's a problem, you should be able to figure out a way to get around it without having to pull out the gun and shoot each other with it.
All right, one more thing I'm trying to figure out, and I'm going to ask Canadian to help me. Because I'm not sure whether you're genius or psycho, but I think you got the answer from this one, okay? Trump. Am I supposed to like him? Am I supposed to be fearful of him? I'm not sure what to make of Donald Trump.
I thought he was Vince McMahon.
He was.
I think Vince just decided Linda was never going to win.
Right.
Make it look like she was trying to win so badly that no one saw what he was always doing, which is he always put Donald Trump. So I think Vince McMahon's Donald Trump, The Rock, all those guys, that's Donald Trump. I don't think the world's really that dangerous. I don't think the world's about to blow up. I think they got a couple guys out there that maybe have like arguments at NATO with them, different politics or ideas or agendas. But I think the whole world gets along. I think there's aliens on the planet that keep the world under wraps, basically. That if we were going to kill ourselves, we would have already done it.
All right, I'm going to line you and Brian Kendrick up with that alien project one day.
I think there's some. Well, even if I think there's a hybrid human on the planet that's got some kind of special powers that's keeping us together. Very weird planet. For us not to have already killed ourselves and to blown up all this shit everywhere. I'm thinking
so the aliens have held it together.
I think humans. I think love and compassion and understanding hold it together, and I hope more people have that in the future. And smarts, like I say, we're getting smarter. The frequency on the Earth is getting different, changing. So I think we all have a different aptitude now. We're smarter monkeys. We're smarter, whatever you want to call it, Neanderthals on the outside of the planet. Something I heard about was Hollow Earth. Check Hollow Earth out. It was something I read about on the computer like 6 years ago. It blew my fucking mind, if it was possible. You ever heard of it?
No, I'm going to put it on my list.
Oh, you'll like it. You'll like it.
All right. Tay, I want to thank you for taking the time coming here.
This was another one of those fun interviews, guys.
This is it was fun for me too. It was like a lot of times I've been out of the interview business for a while with these podcasts killing us.
I will do another interview with Mike, because this interview was shit in my opinion, because he was nice enough to let me kind of go all over the place. But I have lots of stuff I want to talk about, but I need to get it done. Mm-hmm. It's this year's my doing, and if I do all the stuff I'm supposed to do, then I can do one more shoot interview down the road where maybe that one is one I can sell to the rest of the world, where I don't get paid anything for it. I do a split with you, where if I can get it into all these 9-to-5 people, normal people in the real world's hands, that this is a guy that's coming back to get new fans. I want new wrestling fans. That's my goal for the next 10 years, is to try to get people that have never watched wrestling, never heard of wrestling, to watch wrestling once. Not what you think I'm going to show them, but what I want to show them, which is what you've been doing. So, again, just thank you for making wrestling important and keeping indie wrestling alive. Indie wrestling being so important has made WWE give a shit about indie wrestling. That's why there's a tournament right now, is to protect and stop you guys from controlling all these guys. I think they're afraid that maybe you and a couple other guys are going to see all the talent out there, join together and come up with another way where the boys don't get fucked. And the finishes aren't weird, and you're not wondering why I've never seen Neville, this guy, and this guy wrestle in any kind of dream matches on WWE TV. They only wrestle the same match always.
Right.
So whatever you coming into wrestling has done, it's made wrestling into a real sport. It seems like a real sport now.
I appreciate the thing. I don't think I had a lot to do with it, but I am invested in Teddy Hart, and I want to see where Teddy's going to go in the next year. So
if I can be at your show in Orlando, I would really like to be at that show in Orlando, and I'd like to wrestle somebody like a Will Ospreay or a Ricochet or a Shimron or Jack Evans or somebody like that. I'm sure you have.
Vince has signed every one of those guys except Jack, just so you know.
Yeah, Shimron too signed? Oh God, no, Shimron's still my guy.